Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was transformed into a girl, and Sasuke, Hinata and Ino's lives changed forever. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. The morning air had a crisp smell to it and the atmosphere was hazy with a thick fog. It had been raining the past few days and the ground, being damp as it was, would swallow even the tiniest of feet if the owner was not careful. However, this was not a problem for the infamous Uzumaki Naruto. Using his chakra in the soles of his feet granted them freedom from the hungry ground. As the blonde grew older he had developed an arrogance that could be comparable to that of Uchiha Sasuke. In fact, the male was his source for learning bad attitudes. Being best friends with the Uchiha, you couldn't help but become arrogant. It was the only way Naruto could keep up with him through the many years of constant back and forth bickering and fighting. I have something you may consider exciting. Tsunade's serious tone played in his head as he recollected this morning's events. But do not take it lightly. The Hokage gave Naruto the opportunity for something of an odd and serious mission. A Rouge ninja. You don't know where he came from. Naruto's excitement built up as he fantasized fighting the unknown. That is what worries me. Of course, being a ninja there is stealth and an unknown identity brought to the table, but for something so serious as to murder 9 of our citizens, while Konoha is at peace with every village. The Hokage did not attempt to hide her fears of what could be manifesting outside their village. Naruto waved his hands about. Don't worry, Grandma, I can handle this, no problem. Tsunade smiled softly. Of course, I think you may need some help though, and since I have been a little stern on Uchiha, I was thinking I could let this be his first mission as a Konoha ninja once again. A small smile tugged at Naruto's lips. To think of the many years since he and Sasuke had worked together on a mission together and on the same side, the bittersweet thought only lingered though. No, I believe I can do this mission on my own. I don't need someone like Sasuke to help me. There was the idiotic arrogance, but Naruto didn't care. He still felt a little tense around the Uchiha. They barely even spoke since Sasuke's coming back home. I can understand you not wanting him coming with you right now, then perhaps someone else should travel with you, maybe. No, Hokage, I want to do this on my own. As in, by myself. He made sure to have sharp pauses after each word. I have proven myself as a ninja in many circumstances and I need to feel that I can be trusted with something by myself for once. Tsunade flinched at the title Naruto barely used for her, but tried to hide the shock by giving him her most serious of looks. Once the young man showed no signs of budging, her large heaved with her sigh as she granted Naruto permission and filled out some paperwork as he left the room in victory. Poor Tsunade, the blonde thought absently while patrolling the area, having all that paperwork piled up on her desk. When I become Hokage I will hire someone specifically for paperwork. His mind wandered towards a certain raven-haired male. Oh, how angry he would be. An evil chuckle rang through the youth's head. For a moment he couldn't tell if it was he himself, or the large demon living within. It was scary when he couldn't tell between them anymore. A sudden pain throbbed just as a warm and wet sensation engulfed his right ear. Ah! He reached up and covered his bloodied ear as he cursed himself for letting the enemy catch him off guard. The kunai knife that had made contact was already being swallowed by the ground behind him. The Rouge ninja made himself present to the eyes and charged Naruto. Come here boy. The snake-like voice was almost as terrifying as his old enemy, Orochimaru, and sent a shiver down the blonde's spine. The mysterious fiend flung his arms around in what seemed to be sporadic confusion, but obviously a very successful style of fighting for Naruto could not tell how to dodge properly as he was cut 1, 2, 3 times across his midsection. We need you. Who the hell are you? Naruto did not like this creepy outburst. A psychotic murderer he was assigned to track down. Needed him. What the hell is going on? He held a hand over his chest where the deepest blow was made and pulled his own kunai knife out once given a breather from the fury of attacks. The ninja never gave a response to Naruto's question. He only stood there, facing Naruto's direction in such a casual way as if meeting for the first time in a normal setting. The hair on the back of Naruto's neck rose and pinpricks ran all down his back. This guy was so bizarre, and freaking the out of Naruto. He stood a good 2 feet taller than the young ninja and wore nothing but plain, black clothing from head to toe with a small bulging pack strapped to his back. His face was completely covered by a mask and gave no sign of mouth or eye holes. I am not afraid. I am not afraid. I am not afraid. Hey, you must not be able to hear through that tasteless mask of yours. I asked. Who the hell are you? Naruto cupped his hands around his mouth, purposely taunting the enemy. You need not worry about it much, this will not take long. A funny-looking lantern was pulled from the pack. An ominous hum vibrated from the object as it seemed to be smoking. Little puffs of purple and blue came out of the object and left a small haze around the two ninjas. Oh crap. He's planning on escaping. I gotta. The kunai slipped from Naruto's hands. What? His feet submerged into the thick, chilly marsh. I can't move, he's. Naruto was down on his knees, but able to keep his torso upright. Gonna kill me, isn't he? The ninja's face was a mystery, completely covered still as he came to stand before Naruto, yet somehow Naruto knew the most malicious of smiles and gleaming eyes were staring back at him behind that mask. You will not feel a thing. I promise. And Naruto closed his eyes. Will he be okay, doctor? Well, he should, but this will be a difficult thing for him to face once he wakes up. That ninja, he could have killed this boy easily, why would he do this to him instead? It is so inhumane and odd. There are some incredibly sick people in the world, my dear, but I know exactly what I would do once I woke up. Get revenge, right? No, I would do myself a kindness and end everything. Doctor, come now. Can anyone around this place take a joke? Naruto felt his mind slowly gain consciousness as the voices played in his head. The words were sluggish and garbled as he tried to come to. I don't feel so good. His body ached like it never had before. He tried recalling what happened, but came close to retching and chose to let his mind just float freely from extreme concentration. Very slowly he let his eyes open and blink a couple times. Everything was obscure in his blurred vision, but he knew instantly that it was a hospital room. Nothing was as welcoming and exciting as a vibrant white room. As he blinked a couple more times, the couple of chattering figures around him came to view. Doctor, he's awake, spoke the female in nurse attire. She started scribbling something down on her clipboard as she departed from the room. The doctor turned his attention on Naruto and smiled a little half-heartedly. He looked to be young for a doctor, maybe in his early 20s. Not only did he have brains for his job, but a face girls would drool over too. His nicely combed brown hair barely reached his eyebrows that arched over stunning deep blue eyes. This guy had no glasses though, what the hell? Hello Mr. Perfect. Have you met Uchiha Sasuke or Hyuga Neji? The world was full of these guys, what's next? He has crazy eye tricks too. Please, I'm tired of that cliché with just two of them. Ah, so he is. Welcome back, Naruto. I'm your doctor, Dr. Sato. The tone was not to Naruto's liking. Something within it shook like a leaf. Great. Something is wrong with me. You will not feel a thing. I promise. Everything rushed back to him like a long-lost memory forgotten and left the pit of his stomach feeling sour. That maniac did something to Naruto, but what? His entire body felt beaten. It was hard to tell where the source of the hurt came from. Anything could have happened. This was when Naruto took in the IV attached to him as well as many bandages to his arms from previous needle injections. A sharp pain shot up his spine if he even thought about moving his legs around. Dear God, what the hell happened? This was obviously more than being banged up a little. Red-hot fire burned between his legs and ripped up his midsection, stifling a tearful scream from Naruto's lungs. The boy panted as he pressed back against the bed and let out a more satisfying scream towards the pain. That was it. He was dying a very cruel and hateful death. There was no other way to describe it. The no-face man had made it possible to do the most inhumane death ever. Fatality through the man jewels. It was so much to take. Naruto couldn't even feel his poor boys down there. What's wrong with me? He managed to rasp out between pants. The long list of things he wanted to do in life ran across his mind. He could see the future not dead Naruto dressed in Hokage robes and successfully leading a village of people who believed in him. He had a mansion of a home and there was a ramen shop right next to his bedroom fully stocked 24/7 with a staff working around the clock to make sure they never missed a meal opportunity. He had an extremely satisfying life with Sakura as his wife. Good grief, Naruto was still a virgin. He knew nothing of how amazing really was. What kind of life was this? There were all of his friends that he should have been able to go on more missions with that he felt were very close to his heart, and the last thing that came to mind. I never cleared up everything with Sasuke. Naruto's eyes were watering, but not from the supposed future life cycle. The pain was becoming too much for him to handle. Just when he thought it was going to break everything in his body, a very pleasing and cool sensation pooled through his veins. Thank God for IVs and anesthesia. He was thankful he could breathe in some other form besides borderline hyperventilating. Dr. Sato made sure the IV did its job on Naruto before pulling up a chair to the bedside. I can assure you, you are not dying. I know it may feel as though you are. It is only because of the rough situation you were put through. The trademark Naruto grin shinned through the darkness covering his face as he sat up in excitement. Gah! He immediately flew back against the bed and ran his hands down his body to gingerly hold his screaming genitals. Only, he came across no genitals. The world froze and felt so icy. The ceiling appeared to be spinning slowly down to crush him. This couldn't be right. His junk must be hiding somehow. His fingers roamed from his belly, down and over barren and unfamiliar territory until he reached his buttocks. Doc, where are they? He rubbed the sensitive area curiously until realizing this was the home to the death simulation he went through prior and stopped altogether. Naruto's bright blues met with the tentative deep blues. Where are my man parts? He could feel tears jerking at the rim of his eyes from fright. Dr. Sato cleared his throat. You see, Naruto, you've kind of been detached, so to speak, from your man parts, as you put it. Detached. Yes. From what made me a man. Correct. Naruto's voice was reaching screeching octaves. I'm a girl. The doctor said nothing, nor did he seem capable of giving a nod or head shake as he appeared to be in mystified concentration. Well, am I? Naruto was on the brink of crying in front of this guy who was supposed to be able to tell Naruto what was going on. Aren't you the doctor here? He wanted to shriek to the tops of his lungs but kept choking on what felt like sobs coming from his throat. The man gave Naruto a pitiful look. That's what I need right now. Pity for Sasuke. Naruto's mind was one sailor's mouth just waiting to be opened for the world to hear. Only his pitiful sobs were holding him back. Damn it, I am a sad sight. Sorry, Naruto. I'm having a hard time trying to explain this. Naruto half snorted, half sobbed. You're having a hard time. Well, by all means, go relax and get back to me when you feel better. The doctor fumbled with his hair. Naruto, you're not exactly either of the two. You no longer have your male organs, nor can you grow female organs. I would say you are closer to a girl now if anything You, girl, now. Those three words repeated themselves like a caveman cruelly poking fun at Naruto as he felt his last fiber for life snap. Do you want to stay this way? What? Do you want to stay as you are now? The ray of hope somehow didn't enter Naruto's state of mind. The idea of finding Naruto's massacred goodies in marshland and reattaching them was like finding a needle in a haystack, but the needle was never in the haystack to begin with, so you're just a fool rummaging for days in a haystack while all the village people snicker as they walk by. Are you telling me I can become a guy again? Dr. Sato shook his head. No, unfortunately you will never be considered a true part of the male population again. As for the feminine side of it though, we can alter your body to take the form of a woman as you grow. I would rather die. Why are you even giving this question? You will not be able to reproduce like a woman, but we can make it easier down there. You know how you kids are. If you meet a boy, and you decide it feels right with him, you can sneak off to that red light district to enjoy. Whoa. Please stop talking. Naruto's hands were covering his eyes in frustration and embarrassment to what the doc was suggesting. Who in their right mind would want to follow your advice? Naruto sat up a tad and gave Dr. Sato a calculating look. Is he qualified for this job? He wondered in all seriousness. You do hear yourself when you speak, right? Do you know what you sound like? I'm afraid I'm not following. Do I sound funny to you? Geez. The exhausted blonde fell back on his pillow. And people thought I was the village idiot. There you go. Jokes make everyone feel better, Naruto. And there you go again. Naruto sat up once more. What makes you think I would want to become more like a woman than a man? Were you not standing there 5 minutes ago? He could tell this man wanted to be all fun and games to help Naruto's situation, but he was only making matters worse. I just want to be a normal guy again. Sorry, Mr. Uzumaki, and it was genuine. Yeah, me too. Naruto relaxed on his back as the doctor handed over a clipboard. I've made a note that you are your very own guardian for these situations, and I know it's tedious, but these are a few things you need to sign for the hospital. Medications, surgeries, all the good, fun stuff. Naruto half looked through the items on the papers before signing at the bottom of each page. Medication, medication, previous surgery, medication. Thank you, Naruto. I will be poking my head in and out every here and there, so watch for me. Dr. Sato gave a goofy grin before leaving Naruto all by his lonesome. He stared up at the ceiling in defeat as he waited for the sleep to take over. There was nothing to look forward to. His life was forever screwed up thanks to one out-of-hand mission. And the worst thing about it was Naruto had a choice in the matter. When Tsunade had put Sasuke on the mission with him, he declined. This whole ordeal may have never happened if Naruto wasn't so hard-headed. Why? He covered his eyes as the flood came. So, he's, yes, neither a full man nor woman. A more technical term would be. But look here, you can already see the developing, so not all is lost for a gender title. Damn voices. They were penetrating Naruto's foggy conscience, making him wake up once again. Did no one like to talk outside of his room? I can't believe he agreed to that. It is quite odd. She was very passionate on this topic, but I watched her very carefully read over these documents. Look, here they are. She signed right there at the bottom. It sounded to Naruto as if two people were holding him submerged underwater as they spoke. Everything was garbled and hard to make out, but he could tell one voice was his doctor. The man was like a nightmare Naruto could never forget. Bad news was equivalent to the hottest new joke he just had to tell Naruto. He grew to loathe the man. The other voice, however. Yes, I see the paper, but it does not make sense even with what you said. Are you sure he signed these, or was someone trying to play a joke on him and went a little too far? Or maybe it wasn't a joke at all. Oh, dear boy, you appear to have a disorder with reading into things a little too deep. Why don't you ask the poor girl when she wakes up? Please, quit calling him a girl. He doesn't need any more psychological damage done. Oh look, now you can ask her. Or disregard my statement, jackass. Naruto blinked his eyes open. They felt so heavy he almost decided against opening them fully, but was too curious as to who the second person was. As soon as the white blobs of sleep moved from his line of vision, he could make out the doctor and Sasuke. The male had a makeover since Naruto saw him last. Sasuke looked to be taking a turn from his younger emo sense of style. It appeared that he now approved of the lighter side of clothing instead of shrouding himself in darkness, though he must have something against showing off his neck still. His apparel consisted of a white, long-sleeved shirt with a skinny collar hugging his neck and the Uchiha fan emblem stitched over the left, and charcoal slacks stretching down to typical black, closed-toed ninja shoes. Sasuke's hair looked to be trimmed down a bit, giving it less of a duck butt look and just slightly spiky. His bangs still hung to either side of his face but had been thinned out and not so dominant. The new look suited his good looks, Naruto hated to admit even mentally. Oi, Sasuke. Naruto knew he looked worse for wear because of his exhaustion. He could feel the filth of lying in bed without a shower for a good few days too. NNH, how are you feeling? Pretty close to how I look, I'm sure. Naruto could feel his voice scratching his throat, another plus. He sat up and propped up his pillow. Looking around, Naruto found no Dr. Sato. The coward probably ran off before Naruto had another screaming fest. The day before, the young blonde felt it necessary to chew out the doctor for adjusting his prescriptions to estrogen tablets. Why he felt the need to make Naruto more womanly than he already was an infuriating mystery to him. The doc wasn't about to win this battle though. It was Naruto's body. Hey, how long have I been in here anyways? I lose track of time in this place. Going on 3 weeks. What? Naruto knew it was a long time, but damn. Not 3 weeks worth of a long time. Yes, it's been a while. The usual air of indifference Sasuke had towards everything had changed. Naruto had only seen Sasuke so passionate about revenge before. It made him slightly uncomfortable when the attention was aimed towards another human being, that being Naruto himself. So, you're the only one who has come to visit after 3 weeks. He felt his heart sink at recalling no one else at his bedside. No, everyone has come to visit. Sasuke cast his gaze to the ceiling. You've just been out of it on the medications. Knowing this warmed the hurt boy a little. At least his friends still cared. Naruto. Sasuke's attention never left the ceiling. Why did you give the doctor permission to do that? Give the doctor permission to do what? He didn't give the doctor permission to do anything. Well, he said you signed papers for a more natural, woman's body. What? Naruto couldn't think straight. Maybe the medicine was getting to him. That could not have been what Sasuke said because he knew damn well that he signed no papers that said such things. His body temperature seemed to be dropping, he was so cold. Naruto, you are developing now. Naruto kept staring at the Uchiha as he firmly planted both hands on his chest to feel, what the hell did that damn doctor do to me? Flabby flesh rested beneath both hands. This was too much. They were tiny but hell if Naruto wanted them. Sasuke. He rounded on the male. Had it been a normal situation, Naruto would forever treasure it as a first-time look for, I shit myself scared, on Uchiha Sasuke's face. Was it possible for that pale skin to reach lighter tones? Naruto couldn't sit still to think much of anything going on in Sasuke's head. He jumped at Sasuke, literally. With a couple pulls of IVs from his arm and a leap of faith, Naruto had Sasuke straddled against the guest couch by the bed. It wasn't very classy or cool at all. Naruto kinda had to be held a bit by the Uchiha as they fell over, but it was minor details. He wanted to know why he had. Do you feel this? Naruto removed Sasuke's protective hold and shoved both hands against the two mounds on his chest. What the hell is this, Sasuke? Because I don't remember falling asleep with popping out of my chest. The Uchiha was squirming to free his hands, looking humiliated for what Naruto was doing to him, but the blonde only held on tighter. Before he could get another word out of his mouth, a pain shook him all over. Naruto immediately let his friend go and made a face plant against the Uchiha emblem. Ah, that hurts. God, I took out the IVs. Naruto instantly regretted his outburst. The pain was like that of the death simulation he had days ago. Please make it stop. Naruto started panting and tearing up a little as the familiar agonizing sensation shot up his body from between his legs. Warmth wrapped around his body. It felt nice, but it didn't do a damn thing for the excruciating pain. It took Naruto a few minutes to register it was Sasuke's arms holding him in a gentle hug. After a few more slightly awkward minutes of lying right on top of Sasuke, the blonde began feeling a little more calm and able to breathe. To hell with this girl crap. Just the transition was horrible. How the hell was Naruto going to live like this? Dear God, I don't even want to think about this anymore. Why didn't I just die? Sasuke, why is this happening to me? The boy whimpered pathetically. Naruto. Sasuke's tone became less sympathetic suddenly. What papers did you sign exactly? He helped Naruto sit up enough so they could see eye to eye. Just some crap about medications and a surgery he performed, down there. Did you read everything thoroughly? Word for word. Naruto thought back and paled. Did I read them? Everything is so hazy thinking back. I don't know. He looked up into a horrifying face. You are telling me you did not read the papers? Sasuke's voice was chillingly calm paired up with the, I should kill you myself, look. Naruto felt his wrists being wrung to death in the Uchiha's hold. Naruto could understand why Sasuke was mad, but really. This was Naruto, not Sasuke, so he shouldn't be pissy that Naruto made a mistake. Hell, Naruto was mad enough at himself. He didn't need anyone else to give him shit. There was a sudden clicking sound as the door to Naruto's room was forced open. The doctor's voice was like a knife that stabbed into the two on the couch, Naruto. Sasuke. The two of them finally took notice of their position on the couch now that someone else was in the room. Sasuke. Sitting on the couch. To be more correct about it, he was laying on the couch, with Naruto sitting with his legs spread on top of the Uchiha's stomach. Why was it that people seemed to walk in on the most suggestive things? It was a good thing the doctor dressed Naruto in a long gown that went completely around his body, unlike those garments that revealed the backside of a person. Otherwise, the doctor would be seeing more of Naruto than he would have liked. The only problem was that Naruto had no pants or underwear on. He felt vulnerable and uncomfortable. Something down there was hot and wet to his mortification. Oh, Naruto. There was an abrupt pause. Naruto and Sasuke figured that the doctor had come to realize what the scene portrayed. Neither of them were brave enough to look up at the man. Well, Naruto, I never imagined you as the type of person that would attempt this sort of thing so quickly, especially after surgery. That's really not the smartest thing. You have not completely healed, dear girl, but I do enjoy your enthusiasm. How much more embarrassing could you get? And in front of Sasuke. Naruto could feel the humiliated tears popping up and buried his face into Sasuke's chest. That's when he realized how much of a girl he was being and quickly sniffed up his emotions. You jackass. Naruto stood to face the doctor and settle everything once and for all. He met with Sasuke's stomach instead. Oh dear. The doctor's voice was a million miles away. Blood. There was a large vortex of dark blood staining Sasuke's pure shirt. Naruto stared in silent horror as it spun in circles before his eyes. Before he knew it, Sasuke was helping him on the bed. Naruto, you have blood on your shirt. Sasuke looked flushed and close to passing out himself. Naruto glanced down and saw a similar marking right towards the end of his gown where it had bent up from sitting on Sasuke. He looked back up to Sasuke and didn't have the nerve to tell him the same for his shirt. Instead, he sort of screeched, "Am I having a period?" No, no, no. The doctor finally found a point to come into the silent battle of both males mentally freaking out. Ms. Uzumaki cannot reproduce, so she is not having a menstrual cycle. This is the result of incomplete healing mixed with running around, which you are not supposed to do. Who knew the doctor was capable of sounding like he knew what he was talking about? Naruto was just relieved by the news. It sucked that he opened some wounds, but it was better than knowing he could start popping out babies. Don't worry though, she can still be classified as a girl. The estrogen tablets she signed for are helping nicely with the change. Naruto hated the doctor, but he was too exhausted to start yelling at him. And from what Sasuke had brought up, Naruto had indeed signed papers for everything the doctor was talking about. He sighed and laid back against his bed. What a fun-filled situation this was, and sadly becoming his everyday life. Sure, the Uchiha was used to this title from all of the girls and a few others, but Naruto never bothered with titles when it came to Sasuke. It was always just plain old Sasuke. Even Tem. When things were good. This didn't give the Uchiha good vibes as he turned towards the blonde. The two of them were walking down a street in Konoha. Sasuke couldn't really remember why they were doing so. Now looking around, Sasuke noticed that the street had no one on it. More reason to feel chilled. Why yes, Naruto. His voice shook when he spoke, making Sasuke upset with himself. Uchiha Sasuke never falters. He would mentally blame it on the ominous atmosphere, but knew something was eating at him somehow. But what? An arm quickly intertwined with Sasuke's. There was a sudden flutter in his stomach, and it only worsened when a warm body pressed up against his side. Ah, that was eating at him, that feeling he would get whenever a girl was hopelessly flirting with him. Only this was Naruto. You're my best friend, idiot. Why are you trying to humiliate me like this? Sasuke thought angrily, but did nothing to remove Naruto's arm. His heart picked up the beat in a panic and felt his pride crack to willingly let another man link arms. Well, circumstances changed the man part, but Sasuke couldn't think of Naruto as a girl. Boy or girl, Naruto was the only person who could get any real emotions from Sasuke. Why was that? Sasuke truly cared for Naruto unlike most everyone else. Having the blonde suddenly become flirty and clingy caused conflicting emotions. The touch was like fire. He wanted to snatch his arm away as if Sakura or Ino were holding him. Since Sasuke cared about Naruto, he didn't want to hurt Naruto's feelings, especially in this confusing time. So he let Naruto's arm stay even though it sent shivers across his flesh. Then the blonde laced their fingers together. Shockingly, Sasuke exhaled deeply as his heart seemed to burst with every beat. Was it possible that Sasuke actually liked the touch when it was Naruto? He felt his face grow hot to what he was thinking, but didn't allow his expression to change. Things would only worsen if he did. Focusing on the way Naruto's hand felt, Sasuke found it was very soft and warm, her fingers grasping tenderly. I love you, Sasuke-kun. Something inside of Sasuke snapped at the words. He was only holding onto his emotions by a thread, and those few words were like scissors to that said thread. Unknown desire for Naruto filled him to the brim until it finally spilled. He grabbed Naruto's shoulders, which had also become soft even more so than usual. Wait, since when did he think of Naruto being soft? And he pulled gently so Naruto would fall into a deep kiss with him. This probably shocked Sasuke more than it did Naruto. Never before had he imagined this between them, but for some reason it felt right. But, beep beep. Why? Beep beep. What was going on? The Uchiha's body lurched as his lusty mind registered a loud annoying sound coming from his alarm clock. Pulling his head up from his pillow, he discovered a first. Saliva drenching the area he had rested on as if making out with it. No wonder the kiss felt real. Exclamation mark. Wait a second. Kiss. Kiss. What did he dream? When did he start dreaming? Sasuke was never the kind of person to have dreams much, especially ones of an intimate variety, so what possessed him to start? Sasuke slammed his hand on the alarm clock to shut it up. It really annoyed him since it had taken away the hazy images that were fleeing from him. He wanted to know who it was that he was kissing, damn it. He couldn't remember and it pissed him off. Why did he set the alarm clock anyway? I've got to escort Naruto to the Hokage's office. He thought back to the previous day's events that lead to this mission. I'm sure you already know that tomorrow Naruto will be able to leave the hospital's custody, correct? Sasuke nodded his head in answer to Tsunade. Why wouldn't he know? He had been visiting Naruto daily ever since his friend was admitted, a total of 5 weeks, to be sure he was okay and give some company. Naruto had told Sasuke that he, damn it, she was happy with having Sasuke there by his, damn it again, her side, that it wasn't near as boring. Wasn't near as boring, was what Naruto had said. Did that mean that Naruto thought it to be boring even with Sasuke, but not as boring as it was when alone? Who knew? Sasuke didn't have time to dwell on it because Tsunade continued with the conversation, not realizing the Uchiha's turmoil. I know this wouldn't be considered a real mission to you, but I need someone to bring Naruto to me. Sasuke a brow. Can he not walk here on his own? Tsunade understood what Sasuke meant and went on to explain sharply. No, it wouldn't be a problem for her, but I feel that she should have an escort for the purpose of something happening, a precaution so to speak. Naruto may or may not be fit enough to move around, but we'll never know this until she moves. You would just make sure she gets here without collapsing or hurting herself. The Uchiha was more understanding with this and felt a twinge inside when Tsunade had corrected his terms in which he had called Naruto a he, something the two of them had been bickering about for nearly a whole month. Tsunade believed it to be too harsh to remind Naruto of what gender he used to be and have him get used to a girl title. This was hard for Sasuke though, it was too hard to think of Naruto as a girl and even harder to call him one. Sasuke broke from his thoughts and looked up to the Konoha hospital. He entered, signed in to pick up his friend and waited as patiently as he could. The nurses explained Naruto was being held a little longer to have a touch-up to her wardrobe. It aggravated Sasuke to no end, but kept his mouth shut and showed his disapproval by giving a death glare to any nurse who walked by. Why the hell does she need a touch-up, anyways? He felt a headache coming on. No, I am not going out like this. But Naru-chan, you look so cute. And your outfit looks better this way. Naruto felt a shiver run up her spine from the comment. My name is Naruto, not Naru-chan. Ever since Naruto had come out of surgery weeks ago, her nurse took to calling her Naru-chan, which was embarrassing. Sure, maybe there really wasn't anything between her legs anymore and she had a couple of baby, but she was not about to let everyone start using chan at the end of her name. Naruto quickly pulled at the bottom of her shirt. The 3 nurses decided to give her a complete makeover clothes-wise. The shirt was nothing like the jacket she used to wear. It refused to stretch down over her black shorts, revealing her belly button that should never see the light of day. It also had little to no sleeves, showing off thinner arms than Naruto remembered having. And curse girls. She even wore a maddening bra for crying out loud. Naruto didn't think something so tiny deserved something so itchy and irritating. The shorts weren't so bad though. They were loose and stopped above the knees, letting her legs feel freedom for once while her feet still adorned the blue ninja sandals she had always worn. What bothered her possibly even more than the shirt and bra was her hair. While in the hospital for a little over a month, Naruto was never able to get a trim or haircut of any kind, allowing for the blonde locks to grow. The nurses took it upon themselves to fashion in some bobby pins so the bangs were out of her eyes and resting on top of her head while the rest no longer seemed to be capable of defying gravity. She's so cute. All three nurses sang out while wrapping their arms around Naruto. What hell hole have I crawled into? This is nuts. I need my clothes. I need my hair. I need my freaking identity back. Feeling a little overwhelmed, the blonde forced herself from their arms, escaped from the room and slammed the door. Hopefully everyone in the outside world wouldn't be a freak show like the staff here in the hospital. It would be no walk in the park if they did. Naruto cursed her non-existent luck and continued down the hallway towards the front desk and check-in out area. Truth was Naruto did kind of want to see what she looked like. If the nurses were making such a big deal of how cute she was, maybe she should stop by a bathroom just for a quick, little sneak peek. Damn, thought Naruto rather upset. My mind's already morphing to think like a girl's. I want to look at myself just for the sake of looking. Naruto decided against stopping at a bathroom right then and there. She didn't have time anyways. The Hokage needed to see her. At first Naruto had been excited in hopes of what would entail, but was quickly dejected when coming to terms that it wouldn't be for a mission. Once arriving at the front desk, she caught Sasuke leaning with his back to a wall and staring off angrily. Geez, he thinks he's in a bad mood. Wait until he sees what these people have done to me. Oi, Sasuke. It's that simple. Break into Naruto's room. Snap a nurse's neck if she dares to try me. Drag that numbskull to Tsunade kicking and screaming if I have to. 30 minutes was working on the raven-haired male's sanity. He spoke to himself in short angry dialogues of what he would do if Naruto didn't appear soon. The scenarios were getting worse and worse as his body wound up so tightly he felt he could barely breathe. Oi, Sasuke. Then all the anger and inability to breathe crumbled to tiny pieces at the familiar voice. It shook Sasuke immediately because he realized it was still the same voice his dear friend always had, making it that much harder to stare reality in the face, even if Naruto had a sissy girl voice before. Sasuke waved this thought from his mind with a mental smile. Idiot, quit yelling. You do know that you're in a hose. There was a long moment of absorbing Naruto. Sasuke completely lost all train of thought in what he had been saying. From the moment he turned his head, he realized he was doomed to live a tortured life from now on. Standing before him was Uzumaki Naruto. He almost slapped his forehead from feeling so stupid. Of course it was Uzumaki Naruto, but why is she so? She's nay, something wrong. Sasuke. Adorable. Sasuke felt his eyes linger in places they should not. The light orange top wanted with all its might to be a tank top and reminded Sasuke of Sakura's top she adorned nowadays, only Naruto's wanted to squeeze almost non-existing to full-blown life. They were tiny mounds, nothing more, and why am I judging her anyways? He cared not to stare more, but as soon as he unglued from her chest her attire he found her hair, it can lay down flat. This was a feat that marveled even him. Naruto could have been born from her mother's womb using those spikes as an escape. How did anyone tackle those locks into obedience? Her face seemed to keep most of the shape it had been previously, only thinner, and he unintentionally met eyes and stopped critiquing. Those same. Nothing out of the ordinary here. The sky will never be the limit. Blue eyes, there was not a thing different about them. Something buckled within him. Sasuke felt it all as soon as it happened. It was guilt, it was affection, it was hate, it was cold, it was warm, it was vile. It turned his stomach into a pit where he fell endlessly. It squeezed his heart until he thought it may have erupted, and the knot forming in his throat was the blood spewing upwards and out. Adorable. That was not blood spewing upwards and out. Whatever it was had somehow made Sasuke its puppet and slipped a word not part of his vocabulary right out of his mouth. Are you okay, Sasuke? He found Naruto's gaze turn scrutinizing immediately. Oh, what did I just say? How loud did I even say it? Naruto would never let me live something like this down. Damn it. And I was staring too long. Good God. I actually stared at her chest. She knows something's up. Damn. Damn it. What the hell is going on? You look pretty hot. Sasuke froze. What? His stomach and heart did a little reenactment of their previous show, but Sasuke refused to vomit words this time. Yeah, you are a little on the red side. Naruto moved closer. Are you running a fever? If you are, I don't need you to take me to the Hokage's office. I thought that was a pretty stupid idea anyways. Like I'm incapable of walking myself. Sasuke covered his eyes in shame. I cannot believe I thought Naruto was hitting on me. He tried to convince himself it was a defense mechanism towards any girl speaking with him, but he could not quite equate Naruto to a girl even with the titles. Even so, why did he look red in the face? There is no chance. Naruto is a blind idiot. No, I just finished training before coming to pick you up. I guess I'm still a little heated. Why was this sounding so bad even to himself? Damn you, Naruto. Damn you to hell for whatever genjutsu you have sprung on me. Naruto only gave Sasuke a mocking look before heading to the exit disgruntled and grumbling, mainly to herself. Fine, suit yourself. I don't see why everybody acts like I've got some terminal disease. I can walk. Sasuke's probably got pneumonia over here and they're forcing him to walk me like a dog. For the last time. I am fine. Sasuke separated each syllable neatly, trying to keep his cool with what seemed to be a surprisingly normal Naruto. I can still walk myself, Tem. Sasuke felt his temples throb. Maybe if you didn't go off by yourself on that suspicious mission you wouldn't need to be escorted around like a dog and still be a guy. He stopped as if his thoughts had somehow been blurted. Maybe Sasuke should have tried a little bit harder to join Naruto on that mission instead of acting bitter. Letting Naruto go alone was supposed to be a taste of his own medicine, instead it made him a her. Naruto was not the only one to blame, and Naruto had every right to be pissed off about it. What is this? Are you going to let me walk myself or are you coming? I'm tired of being in this hospital. Come on. Quit whining. I'm coming. From now on, I will to protect you. Naruto trudged along Sasuke's side, arms crossed, shoulders hunched, all of the body language needed to show her distaste to being accompanied. Everyone must see her as being a pretty pathetic girl who could not manage to take a simple walk without tripping on her face, breaking a nail, getting kidnapped, or whatever secret, horrible tragedy happened to a girl while they were alone. As if any of those things would happen. The most plausible would be falling on her face, but she wasn't that uncoordinated. As for breaking nails, she had next to none, and kidnapped. Bless the poor soul who tried. Uzumaki Naruto was the equivalent to a firecracker as far as she was concerned. Unfortunately she was hostage to Sasuke. It wasn't very likely he would let her off the hook being stubborn as he was. He may even truly think Naruto was some dumb broad now, as if she were merely a light switch. On, Uzumaki Naruto. Off, damsel in distress. Wonder if he gets off on such sick ideas. She quickly shook her head in embarrassment. I don't want to know what flips Sasuke's switch, nor do I want to pretend it has anything to do with me as a girl. Oh shit, I just thought of myself as a girl. Sigh, thus it begins. Hey, boss, you're out of the hospital. Three familiar voices rang out as Naruto quickly identified them. Konohamaru, Moegi, Udon. The trio looked as if they were about to tackle Naruto to the ground in their excitement. The only thing standing between them was a determined Uchiha. Konohamaru pounced on thin air and lost his footing while Moegi and Udon tripped and collapsed on top of him. OWWW. Boss, why did you move so fast? Naruto pulled from Sasuke's grasp and gave him a rough shove for good measure. Idiot. Why are you hugging me? You're the idiot. I wasn't hugging you. If I didn't grab you, look where you would be. He pointed to the pile of squirming and squabbling children. Ah. Naruto blushed in embarrassment. Why would I accuse him of hugging me? I really am the idiot. Can I crawl under a rock and die now? I just got out of the hospital and this happens. Her shoulder was tugged and turned so she was facing Sasuke once more. His look was exasperated, His words, listen, that's what I'm here for. I won't let you get hurt. Just try and be careful. His words were offensive. Naruto instantly wanted to punch him in the face. This wasn't anti-hero Sasuke, but it sure as hell looked and acted like him most of the time. She wanted to beat the ever-loving crap out of him, but of course she didn't punch, scream, kick, or do any of those things. Dr. Sato. Instead, Naruto flashed back to a most unwanted conversation that she mistakenly brought upon herself by asking the worst person in the world. Yes, Naruto. Naruto was a bit hesitant with finally gaining the courage to ask her doctor this question that had been bugging her for so long. It wasn't so much the dislike for Dr. Sato that was holding her back as much as the details of the subject. So, whenever I go to the bathroom, she could feel the burn in her cheeks, but she couldn't sit there and not know what was going on anymore. I've noticed that my underwear is slightly wet. And sometimes it gets really hot down there. At really weird times, Naruto shivered at the thought of certain people coming to visit, namely Sakura and most of her male friends. She knew something wasn't right about that last part. The doctor was in full attention as if every word was a lifeline and nodding go on you were saying. You idiot. Quit acting like you're taking notes on and tell me if I'm broken or not. I have seriously been thinking for days that I had an infection or disease that's been eating my body. I take offense. I never take notes on, nor was your description as good as one. Who was this guy and was he really a doctor? No, you're not broken. You don't have an infection or disease either. I would have caught that immediately when you entered the hospital. That's a relief, but why is it happening? I'd like to stop it. It kind of freaks me out. Suddenly the doctor was closing in on the side of Naruto's bed in a real creepy, girlish way. Oh, Naru-chan, who's the lucky guy? What just happened to their conversation? Where did it go? Why was the doctor curling his body like a love-struck pretzel? You're crushing on a special someone, aren't you? Oh my. Dr. Sato covered his mouth in what appeared to be shock. Are you in love with me? Naruto had never written up paperwork for stabbing a doctor with a nearby scalpel before. It took a surprisingly long time to read and sign off on everything, but if given the chance, she would do the paperwork all over again. Dumbass had it coming. The results were pleasing though. Dr. Sato was fearful to treat Naruto after that incident and had nurses check in and update her on how she was doing. During that time, Naruto mustered the courage to ask one of the female nurses about her predicament and was given a response that resulted with no scalpels being thrown, although they did not make her feel better. Oh, Naruto, it's something every girl experiences once she has matured. It's natural and occurs every day. Whenever your panties get wet, it means you are excited. It does not always relate back to excitement, but in most cases it does. Oh, that's great. Thanks for explaining that. I've turned into a whore. Anything the nurses tried to say to make Naruto feel better after that failed. The truth was out and apparently her body wanted to hook up with anything that walked. Well, at this very moment Naruto's body really wanted a piece of Sasuke. Dear God, why? Boss. Naruto had forgotten about the audience staring up at her. Sorry. Sasuke's been a bit of a killjoy lately, you can jump on me all you want. She felt a very dark aura by her side and only shoved Sasuke's arm before he could say or do anything again. Konohamaru looked to Moegi and Udon, both shaking their head before he continued. I'm kind of confused, are you really a girl now? Naruto lost a sliver of humanity and smacked the boy over the head. Repeatedly. Ow, 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 ow. What did I do? I am not a girl. That's what you did. You questioned it. But everyone's been talking about it. They say you pretty much are one now. What? Naruto could feel her being shake, but she was not sure what feeling caused it. Backstabbing agony or throat-ripping rage. Why would everyone be saying that about me? Her throat felt sour and lumpy. Well, we heard you had an accident on your last mission and, I guess when something like that happens, it spreads like wildfire. What? No. Sasuke stepped in. It does spread very quickly. So, Naruto, you need to be ready for more run-ins like this and not pummel anyone who slips up and calls you a girl. Konohamaru nodded eagerly. It's going to happen and you know you would be the same way if it happened to someone else. But, I'm not a girl. Sasuke hesitantly brushed Naruto's back and jerked his hand to his side. Let's go. The Hokage is waiting. The small act of comfort warmed Naruto and mixed her already confused emotions into a whirlwind of disarray. Damn it, is it not enough having everyone think I've completely switched sides on my gender? Please, body, quit wanting to want this guy, please. I don't think I can take much more. Boss. Naruto turned reluctantly to the child. What, Konohamaru? Moegi and Udon pulled at Konohamaru's scarf and whispered in his ears hurriedly before the leader swatted them away. Great. Is this going to be breaking point? I wanted to ask you something. Since you're not really a guy anymore. Naruto felt a stab at her non-existent manhood for the umpteenth time that day. We thought the title, boss, was a little too masculine and wanted to give you a new nickname. You know, try and make you feel better about being a girl. Cold blood was pumping through Naruto's veins. New nickname. Were they serious? You can't just take something like that away from her. Boss, was what they had called her for years. It was practically a second name, but maybe the three of them decided on something genius that could possibly take the edge off of what today was turning into hell. Alright, I expect nothing but the best from you three, something tingled within. What was this? Could this be excitement? Naruto hadn't experienced this feeling since, well, the mission that completely screwed up her life. Oh, irony. Konohamaru beamed as the other two hesitantly smiled before all shouting, Heim. As if it was the ending to some bad joke they believed magnificent, they all giggled gleefully. Heim, hi, me, this does nothing to make me feel better. What the hell? Why do they want to call me a princess? Do I look like a dumb broad from a fairy tale? A faint snigger caught Naruto's attention immediately. Mr. Always Stoic had his hand covering his mouth as if he just got over a coughing fit and was grinning very widely. He should smile more. Hey, wait a second. The bastard's laughing at me. Naruto felt her embarrassment surface to her face, but did not dare to call out her friend. Instead, she rounded her humiliated rage on the trio of children. What the hell makes you guys think I want Heim to be my new nickname? Do I look like some woman in dire need to be rescued and married off? I just said I'm not a girl, you damn brats. Moegi finally gained the confidence to speak up. But, you're such an adorable person, Heim-chan. I thought you were a pretty cute guy too. Her cheeks turned red more so than usual. I thought you could have been a prince. Udon pressed his glasses up the bridge of his nose and blushed. And you do look like a beautiful princess I once pictured before. You look exactly how I would see Cinderella. Konohamaru was only being egged on by the comments his once silent teammates were now making. Yeah, boss, I mean Heim-chan. You're such a motivation, and I mean, you do still want to be Hokage. Wouldn't that be some way related to a princess title-wise? The boy was grinning ear to ear. And yeah, you look exactly like a princess. You could be the first with the title, Ninja Princess. There were hearts practically forming within the boy's eyes. You only need a costume. Joy. I have little kids forming twisted crushes on me. Annoying little kids, I have to get out of here. You brats are one word short of being annihilated right here, right now. If I dare hear anyone even stutter something that sounds remotely close to princess, I will break their teeth out and glue them into such a pretty crown fitting for such a pretty princess. Naruto marched off without a glance to any of the children, but was pleased to not have them calling after her once more. She was beginning to feel a small inner peace when noticing nothing had really changed. She was indeed still the same firecracker Uzumaki Naruto with a mouth that could put your mom in an early grave. So, why can't everyone else see that? Uchiha Sasuke followed behind Naruto without a single word spoken. He knew something was coming in. 5, 4, 3, 2. Sasuke. Bingo. HN. You were laughing at me back there. Oh no, here it goes. Time to prepare for a headache. Damn. Wait, what if she starts crying? No, Naruto doesn't cry that easily, but she has had her buttons pushed a lot today, and over that topic. Damn it, and I laughed. What am I doing? I'm just the bad guy always. I'm sorry. Sasuke had to choke down his gag reflex to the foreign word. I know you despise this situation. It just becomes so easy to think of you as, well, you Naruto. Naruto watched Sasuke for a long moment when, what the hell are you talking about? Suddenly Sasuke realized they were on very different pages and possibly not even within the same book. Sasuke felt small pin pricks within his cheeks. The hell? Is Naruto purposely trying to make me look like a fool? What the hell are you talking about then? Yes, I laughed and I was apologizing for laughing. God, it felt like these words were taking years to form and verbally communicate. And you call me the idiot? No, Naruto did not just refer to Sasuke as an idiot. He was about to bring all his guns to the table when Naruto continued. I was going to say that I don't think I've ever heard you laugh, minus your HN. Naruto mimicked Sasuke's small grumble that she thought was of a humored sound. Idiot. Guess you're not that funny. He bit out in retaliation. Me not that funny. You're the one who's got the personality of a slug. What does that say about you since you stick with me? Sasuke was enjoying this more than he should, but this was the first time the two of them were in such a silly squabble since Sasuke had come back home. What? Well, one of us has to be fun or we'd bore each other to death. They had now entered the Hokage's building and were standing before Tsunade's door. How sad, and when they were just starting the fun. It was time for the serious talk. Nay, Naruto. About earlier. I just wanted you to know that I am looking out for you, as best as I can. This out of the blue comment seemed to jerk Naruto's chain, and hard. What? Naruto looked to be in shock and her whiskers were practically on fire. Sasuke averted his attention when noting he enjoyed the look a little too much. Well, we are still best friends, right? Oh, of course we are. Sasuke could hear it in Naruto's voice. A light bulb had gone off somewhere in that empty head and made Naruto realize they had hopped topics without stating it. Sasuke brushed the hair on the back of his neck, knowing for sure his emotions were evident on his face. Neither of them liked the sore subject of Sasuke's betrayal those few years ago and neither one of them had fully faced it together, but. Well, we should probably head in now. Tsunade will be very ill with how late we are. Sasuke glanced at the clock before swinging the door open and smirked. Right after you, Haim-chan. Why you? You bastard. Just you wait. Sasuke's heart and stomach reacted funny once more. This was a little unnerving. Maybe he needed to see a doctor now. He pushed Naruto by the shoulder and into the Hokage's chambers as the flailing female spat curses and threw unfriendly hand gestures in his face. This was Uzumaki Naruto. And I'm still her best friend. Uzumaki Naruto, drawled Tsunade in an overly serious voice that shook the blonde, making her think that she had somehow gotten into trouble even though she hadn't done a thing since she had been in the hospital all this time. Why yes. The older female paused a moment before speaking in a softer tone. If you ever need someone, especially someone of the feminine gender, you are welcome to come and see me anytime you'd like. A feeling of comfort swept away the nervous feelings and rushed through Naruto's veins at the kind offer. Thanks. Naruto thought about the time Sakura had come to visit her while in the hospital. The pink-haired female had suggested something along the same lines and had also offered to help Naruto later with shopping. That thought scared Naruto, but if it meant time she could spend with Sakura, then Naruto would happily do whatever. Great. I'm a lesbian, thought the blonde at the fact that she still had a little crush on Sakura after all this time and was now a girl. This sucks. With you being out of the hospital now, Tsunade went on with the reasoning of why Naruto had been called here in the first place. I'm going to have to say that you will need to spend a couple nights with someone. Spend a couple nights with someone. Why do I have to do that? The sound of spending even one night with someone didn't sound like a good idea to Naruto. Just the thought of it alone brought ill omens to mind. And why the hell did she have to spend the night at someone's house? Was she not trustworthy? I want to make sure that you're healthy enough to be out of the hospital and this will ease my worries. Just go with it, Naruto. Think of it like you would a mission. Yeah, okay, but who am I going to be staying with? This was the main concern that Naruto had with this whole idea of spending the night with someone else. Would it be a girl? Naruto wasn't about to act like a girl anytime soon, so a girl wouldn't necessarily be a good thing. If it was a guy then that would cause problems as well. Naruto may still have the mind and personality that she always had, but unfortunately she couldn't say the same for her body, so spending the night with one of her many guy friends would be a little awkward. Tsunade shrugged. I'm leaving the choice up to you. So, I could pick anyone in that case, anyone. Azure Eyes wondered about in thought as to who would be a good roommate until her eyes met with the male that was still standing beside her. A grin stretched across the blonde's face and her eyes became mischievous as a plan unraveled before her. Payback's a bitch, Sasuke. And these next few days I'm going to be that bitch. You should have never called me, Haim-chan. Naruto quickly raised an arm to point at Sasuke and eagerly shouted, I want it to be Sasuke. The raven-haired male's impassive expression changed to surprise at the proposal Naruto had made. Why me? She said it could be anyone that I wanted and that's you. Quote. Sasuke was quick to looking away from Naruto, not bothering with any further questioning of her motives. The Hokage smiled. Well, now that we have that settled. Naruto, you will be staying with Sasuke for 2 nights. Sasuke, do anything in your power to make her comfortable and make sure that she won't get hurt, got it? Both Naruto and Sasuke gave a nod. Naruto's was an eager bouncing one as the things she could do to the Uchiha just poured in her mind one after another, and Sasuke's was a small, defeated one, somehow knowing that all of this would end horribly. She said it could be anyone that I wanted and that's you. Did Naruto have to put it that way to Sasuke? It didn't exactly ease his nerves any. In fact, it made him feel even more on edge than before. And why did she look so excited about it? What was she planning to do? This was going to be an interesting 2 days to spend with the blonde. The two of them were heading for Sasuke's house since Naruto had said that she wanted to rest. She didn't look as if she needed it though, happily walking down the street to Sasuke's like she had so much energy. What was she trying to pull? As they ventured on, a group outside of the ramen bar suddenly caught Sasuke's eye as well as Naruto's when they walked by. The blonde looked as if she had frozen when seeing the bar and she slowly turned towards Sasuke with large, begging eyes. Sasuke, can we have ramen? Her bright blue eyes twinkled with desire for her most cherished dish. How was Sasuke supposed to say no to that? The only problem he had was the large group loitering around the bar. Fine, I'll pay. Sasuke couldn't believe he had actually offered to pay. By the end of this he would be broke with how much Naruto eats. A happy squeal exited from Naruto's mouth as she jumped on Sasuke in a hug and excitedly jumped up and down, nearly causing the Uchiha to fall over. I love you. You're the best, sang the blonde in her bliss over a free meal. Sasuke felt his body temperature escalate and quickly pulled Naruto's arms from around him, placing them by her sides and grabbed the blonde's shoulders, looking her in the eye. He actually had to bend down a little to meet with Naruto at eye level. Did she shrink? This was surprising since the two of them had been close to the same height before she was put in the hospital. Don't touch me, and just to make her upset he decided to throw in, Haim-chan, with something close to a smirk plastered on his face. He couldn't help it. Naruto would always be furious when Sasuke did such things, but he loved the blonde's reactions to said things. I'll never forgive you for that. Nay, why must the Tem be so mean? I was just thanking him and he had to get all mad at me. Then he called me that stupid name again. Naruto angrily ate her ramen outside of the ramen bar. It was too crowded to eat at the bar because they were having a discount on the ramen for some reason, so she was standing while holding her bowl. Thinking of the name he had called her, something else popped into her mind. Kawaii. Did Naruto hear right? She could have sworn that that was what Sasuke said at the hospital. Oh, well. If he did then it didn't matter. He was still being the Tem he was, so he was probably just trying to make fun of her. Looking around as she continued to eat her ramen, Naruto tried to spot Sasuke. The Uchiha had gone off somewhere after paying for her ramen, leaving her alone with the crowd. Why was it that he had to be gone? Naruto didn't want to feel lonely. She already had to deal with that feeling enough in her life and didn't want to remember it. Hey, Naruto, you're out of the hospital. Glancing about to see who it was that had spoken to Naruto, she found that it was Kiba. With him was Shino and Akamaru. Yeah, what are you guys doing here? Kiba gave the question thought before answering. We came here to buy ramen for you since you were in the hospital. It was really Hinata's idea and she wanted to do it herself, but she was too busy, so we offered to get the ramen for her. But since you're already eating ramen, there's no point, added Shino coolly. The blonde smiled. To think that the three of them had wanted to do something kind for her. Thanks for the thought though. As Naruto continued eating her ramen, Kiba made small talk with her, conversing about missions that he had been on since they had last spoken with one another. That's when two more people caught Naruto's eyes. Hey, Shikamaru, Choji. The two males being called to paused and looked around to find Naruto, Kiba, and Shino. They made their way over towards the group when seeing Naruto wave excitedly at them. What are you doing out of the hospital already? Choji was quick to asking. Why was it that everyone seemed so surprised that Naruto was out of the hospital anyways? Because they told me that I could leave, duh. Naruto wolfed down the last bit of the soup from her ramen bowl and looked at the dish with misty eyes. She wanted another bowl, but Sasuke still hadn't come back from wherever he went and she didn't have her wallet on her. What are you two doing here? Choji hear about the discount and want to stuff his face and dragged you along, Shikamaru. Shikamaru crossed his arms. Yeah, even with it being as troublesome as it is, I came along. Naruto was starting to enjoy herself now that there was someone to talk to. It felt much better than being alone. Forget about Sasuke. She was fine without him. Kiba quickly added into Naruto, pulling away from the topic they were on. You know, Naruto. His eyes traveled up and down the blonde's body as he spoke. Your appearance just got better to my eyes. In fact, you're kind of cute. This made Naruto twitch. He was checking her out, wasn't he? The lust for murder rose within Naruto once again at what Kiba had said and was about to yell at him, but Kiba pressed his hands against her chest unexpectedly. 1. What the hell are you doing? The male looked a little disappointed with the result as Naruto pushed him off of her. Sure, you may not have yet, but what has it been? Only a few weeks. There's time. What did he want Naruto to have? Why? And what gave Kiba the right to talk to Naruto like that, much less touch her? She was about to force the empty ramen bowl down his damn throat if he didn't shut up. And if he dared to touch her again. I won't be the only guy gone girl if he does. Shino, being the very smart person he was, to Naruto as of right now, interrupted Kiba. I don't think Naruto appreciates being touched like that, Kiba. Maybe you ought to stop while you're ahead. 2. Thank you, Shino. Naruto cheered in her head. Come on. Kiba apparently didn't want to lose the topic. All of you have to admit that Naruto is cute like this. Naruto felt 4 pairs of eyes on her and nervously looked down at her bowl to keep from making any kind of eye contact with them. She scowled at the bowl as she spoke. I'm still the same whether I have a girl's body or not, so don't go saying things like, you're cute, unless you want me to kick your. She glared up at the 4 of them to show that she was being serious. This was all too embarrassing and she wanted to kill Kiba for causing everyone to stare, but what really scared the blonde was the fact that no one was denying Naruto being cute. They possibly didn't give it much thought, or at least, that's what the blonde believed. Hey, it even looks like she's shrunk. Kiba had completely ignored Naruto's comment and was quick to standing up against Naruto, a little too close for her comfort, especially since she was now backed up against the wall of the ramen bar, to see if she had indeed gotten shorter. How did she get shorter? It was beyond Naruto, but it upset her since she was now the shortest person in their age group again. Well, compared to the guys she was. Hey, I think you really did shrink, Naruto. Get off. Kiba. Their bodies were pressed together and Naruto felt very uncomfortable. Was it going to be this way every time she got this close to a guy? Unlike the way it was with Sasuke, she didn't feel heat from between her legs or any strange, abnormal feelings, but instead felt heat from Kiba. Naruto was going to kill when she was able to get Kiba off of her. She did not like having another male on her the way her friend wasn't in this state. That was way too creepy. Suddenly Kiba was off of Naruto and in a rather hurried fashion that made Naruto wonder if she had telepathically told Kiba all the things she was going to do to him. That wasn't it at all. The back of Kiba's black leather jacket was in one of Sasuke's hands. The look on the Uchiha's face did not look happy at all, even more so than usual, like he was about to kill Kiba. Akamaru growled at Sasuke, but quieted down when the raven-haired male set his piercing eyes on the dog. The other 3 males watched fixedly at Sasuke and Kiba, not knowing what to expect and not up to speaking since Sasuke might want to kill them as well if they uttered a word. Think that it's fun to mess with Naruto like that. The Uchiha quickly turned Kiba around so they could face each other head on, the front of Kiba's leather jacket in Sasuke's hands. If I ever catch you at it again, I'll kill you. 3. Naruto was frantic while quickly reaching out to the Uchiha, Sasuke, and grabbed a hold of the back of his shirt. Onyx's eyes glanced over towards Naruto, lessening the cruelty in them when seeing that she looked a little upset. Naruto decided to go about another subject so Sasuke would let go of Kiba, quickly let go of his shirt and held out the ramen bowl towards the Uchiha. I'd like another bowl of ramen, please. She smiled sweetly towards him in hopes that he would forget about Kiba and get her some more ramen. She wanted another bowl anyways. The raven-haired male paused as he watched Naruto smile and hold up the bowl. He pushed Kiba over to the side where Akamaru and Shino stood and glared at Naruto for wanting to protect Kiba. He wasn't stupid, he knew that was what Naruto was doing, but took the ramen bowl regardless and left without a word. It was silent amongst the group as they watched Sasuke leave. When they were sure that he was gone, they turned to Naruto. What the hell was that? I didn't even do anything to you and he attacks me. Kiba went off into hysterics over the matter and made Naruto really wonder why Sasuke had gotten in an ill mood with Kiba. All he was really doing was comparing heights, even though it made Naruto uncomfortable. Shikamaru shrugged at this since Naruto obviously wasn't going to answer. Who knows? He's always in a bad mood if you think about it. Choji was thoughtful and decided to ask of Naruto, the two of you aren't an item, are you? Naruto quickly shouted, no. What makes everyone come to that conclusion? She was getting fed up with this suggestion, even though it had only been hinted at one other time. Sure, Sasuke was acting weird and Naruto was a girl now, but why did it make everyone question their relationship? Well, Sasuke seems to be protective when it comes to you. You do have to take in the fact that Kiba was harassing you as well. It would only make a person suspect, but since the two of you are good friends, I wouldn't go so far like Choji to blow it out of proportion that you're dating. Naruto blinked a couple of times. This was surprising to hear Shino talk so much in one sitting, but felt relieved that someone didn't think that she and Sasuke were a couple. Kiba suddenly smirked. Yeah, but just imagine Uchiha Sasuke getting the hot pants for Uzumaki Naruto. Not that I would blame him. He eyed Naruto again, since Naruto is cute like this. Kiba, growled the blonde at being called cute yet again, but freaked out inwardly at the fact that Kiba had suggested Sasuke getting turned on by her. There was a sudden grab of Naruto's shoulder and she gave a little yelp as she spun around to see said Uchiha with a box of takeout ramen. Takeout. The brown-headed boy quickly took to standing right by Shino's side just in case Sasuke heard what he had said. Not that Shino would help him, but in case he needed a shield, Shino would be perfect. Sasuke's hand quickly grabbed onto Naruto's arm and pulled her away from the group. Yes, we're leaving, he growled at the blonde without giving her the smallest hint as to why they were leaving. Leaving. But I was having fun. Naruto gave this an afterthought. Even though Kiba was verbally hitting on me and making weird assumptions. Naruto was reluctant to leaving, but she did as Sasuke wanted and shouted a farewell over her shoulder to the four boys as Sasuke dragged her off towards his house. Damn Tem. Damn Tem. I hate his guts. Upon arriving at the Uchiha's house, after stopping by her house to grab a few changes of clothes, Naruto had questioned Sasuke's motives in taking Naruto away from her friends, and Sasuke, being the Tem he is, told Naruto that she wouldn't understand even if he told her, so there was no point. To make things even better, the Uchiha changed the subject by suggesting that Naruto needed to get a shower since she hadn't had one for about 4 weeks. Naruto had been bedridden, so she never got the chance to take one in the hospital. What kind of girl goes around without taking baths? I don't see how those guys could even stand to be around you. That was what made Naruto so furious. Sasuke had gone so far as to call Naruto a girl. How could he be so heartless? And Naruto didn't even get a chance to do something horrible to the Uchiha. That furthered her irritation. Naruto scrubbed her hair with the shampoo so hard that she actually dug her nails into her scalp a couple of times, but she didn't care as of right now. Looking mournfully down at herself, she saw the slim curves of her body, not as curvy as the sexy jutsu, but curvier than when she was a guy. Her were small. About the size Sakura's were when she was 12, but Naruto did have. I'd rather not have them at all. Hey, Naruto, called Sasuke's voice from outside the bathroom. The blonde glanced at the door from behind the thin curtain that hid her from sight. What did he want? Yeah. Feeling that she might as well get out now since she was done bathing, Naruto looked around for a towel and remembered that she placed it on the sink. She hopped out of the shower and walked towards it, looking at the door again. What do you want, Tem? She asked moodily, not forgetting about him calling her Haim-chan twice and a girl just a few minutes ago. Without thinking of the consequences of entering the bathroom, Sasuke forced the door open. He had in his hand the new set of clothes that Naruto neglected to take in the bathroom, so he figured he would be nice and give them to her. Sasuke knew that he had been cruel to the blonde after she had gotten out of the hospital and he wanted to try and be a little nicer to her. This didn't keep Sasuke from making a comment though. When you take a shower you're supposed to take your clothes with you, Dobi. There was a pause between the two as the Uchiha's eyes widened at the sight. Nay, what was that you were saying? The blonde growled at him. Naruto was standing in front of the sink with a towel covering her blonde hair and only her blonde hair. The towel draped itself down to Naruto's back and shoulders, but it didn't cover up her face. His eyes wandered down her curvy body, as it was completely exposed to him and she didn't make a single move in attempt to cover it. One thought stuck in his mind. She had really small. What the hell am I thinking? Sasuke quickly threw the clothes at Naruto, hitting her right in the face and received a yelp as a response. He dashed out of the room and slammed the door as he went, hearing Naruto curse him for no apparent reason, just to curse him he guessed. I just stared at Naruto's body like an idiot. What the hell's wrong with me? Leaning against the closed bathroom door, Sasuke came to realize that his heart was racing and felt something else acting up at seeing Naruto unclothed. This was the exact same reason why he had to leave Naruto after buying the ramen for her. When she had jumped all over him and said that she loved him, though she said it from the bliss of getting a free meal, Sasuke felt something from below react, so he had to leave Naruto alone while he left to calm himself down. It would be hard to calm down while Naruto was rooming with him for the next 2 nights. Hopefully someone would come and save him before he lost his mind or sense of control. This makes me as bad as that damn Kiba, thought the Uchiha bitterly when remembering the male touching Naruto inappropriately. Yes, he had seen the whole thing, but he wanted to see if Naruto was capable of protecting herself in a situation like that, which she most definitely wasn't. He had come to realize this when she wouldn't even do so much as push Kiba away when he pressed his body against hers. This upset the Uchiha greatly, but told himself that this was because Kiba was taking advantage over Naruto in the state that she was in, which he was. Good thing she had Sasuke or something bad could have resulted from that little display of Kiba, just messing around. Sasuke exhaled heavily as he made his way to his bed and flopped down on top of it to ease his fuming thoughts. What the hell was all that? It didn't make sense to Naruto. Why did Sasuke act the way he did? Guys never freaked whenever seeing one another naked. Naruto looked down at herself again. Oh, that explained it well enough. The both of them had completely forgotten for a moment about Naruto's new gender, but Naruto could care less if Sasuke saw her as a girl. It just didn't bother her. I don't care about all that modest crap. I'll do whatever I want, whenever I want to. Pulling the towel off of her head, Naruto, for the first time, looked up at the mirror and saw her reflection. Is that me? The reflection's face turned a light shade of pink as Naruto continued to look at everything that had changed over such a short amount of time. Taking a step back to get another person's perspective of her body, her face turned even redder. Sure, she might have a small chest, but she was a very attractive girl, as Kiba had said, a very cute girl. Her hair was sticking up in 1,000 different directions because of the towel rubdown, but that gave her a cute bedhead look. Naruto inhaled deeply and a-u-u-u-g-g-h-h-h-h-h-h. Sasuke jumped at Naruto's screech and sprinted to the bathroom, busting the door open and glanced around the room as if expecting to see someone trying to hurt the blonde. When he saw no one but the Naruto, he quickly turned his head to face away from her as he spoke. What's wrong? I. The Uchiha turned his head a tad to see what it was that upset Naruto so much only to see her pointing to the mirror. Finding that he couldn't help but glance down at her, he quickly turned his head back around so he wouldn't be tempted to look anymore. He sighed heavily. What's wrong with the mirror, Naruto? It's NN not the MM mirror. It's what's in the MM mirror. A bit confused at what Naruto was talking about, he turned again, but this time didn't bother with looking her body up and down, hard as it was, but he succeeded. In fact, he managed to walk over to stand by Naruto and stared absently into the mirror. It seemed fine to him. What spooked Naruto so much? I don't see anything wrong with it. Naruto grabbed onto his arm and pulled it back and forth, making the Uchiha sway a bit to the motions. She was really starting to act like a girl, but then again, when Naruto was scared of something, she would always act like this, even when a guy, though most times, he had tried to hide it from Sasuke as if it were some competition to see who could hold in the fear longer, which was stupid since Sasuke was never moved by anything like that. It's me I'm talking about. I look like a girl, finished the Uchiha, a little puzzled, trying to avoid looking at both the reflection and the real thing in fear that his face would show his embarrassment to Naruto being completely and the both of them acting as if it were normal. The shaking of Sasuke's arm came to an abrupt stop and everything fell silent. Not wanting to look at the blonde, he quickly questioned, "Are you okay, Naruto?" He would have given her a worried look, but looking at her at all would cause a problem again. Suddenly Naruto forced him to face the door and hurriedly pushed him out of the bathroom and slammed the door, shouting, "Tem, you're a real jerk." Blinking a couple times, Sasuke tried to figure out what it was that he had done to anger Naruto. Did it really bother Naruto that much when she was told that she looked like a girl? Then again, this was the emotional Uzumaki Naruto he was dealing with, and with her now being a girl, how emotional can a person get about being told she looked like a girl if she was one? A knocking at the front door brought Sasuke's thoughts to a sudden halt. He made his way to answer and opened the door to see the pink-haired female that was at one time his teammate. "What do you want?" Haruno Sakura beamed to the Uchiha, completely ignoring his rude question, and spoke cheerfully, "Hello Sasuke-kun. Tsunade told me that Naru-chan was staying with you. See, I'm supposed to take her shopping with me now that she's out of the hospital, so I came to take her." The raven-haired male tried picturing Naruto shopping. The thought was funny, but there was no way she'd want to do something like that. Then again, this was Sakura and Naruto loved Sakura. It wasn't a secret to the Uchiha. There were many times where he had to go through a game of 100 questions about Sakura with Naruto, though he knew nothing of the female either, so there was no real point for the game. "I'll tell her that you're here then." If Naruto still liked Sakura, then that means she's a lesbian. This really was too much for Sasuke to handle. He was relieved that the blonde would be leaving for a while. If she stayed much longer, then he would most likely suffer a headache. Why does he have to say it so frickin' blunt like that? He said I look like a girl. I'm sure he wouldn't appreciate it if I called him a girl after he had a change. Then again, that's only stating the truth, so what was the problem? But the truth hurts in this situation. Naruto quickly forced her clothes on, dressing herself the way that she would as if she were a guy, and even spiked her hair the way it used to be. There. She didn't look too girly. Her body was still a lot smaller than it was when she was a guy, but besides that, she looked like Naruto. Well, her face was a little more feminine now, but other than that. A soft tapping on the door was made as Sasuke's voice was heard. "Sakura's here, Naruto. Something about going shopping with you." The blonde suddenly felt as if all the problems she had had just vanished from sight at the thought of Sakura. She dashed at the door and pulled it open and was about to run out, only to rush into Sasuke. What did you do that for?" Sasuke glared at Naruto. "You're the one who ran into me, Dobi," but his eyes softened when seeing how the blonde was dressed. "Is there a reason why you've decided to dress like you normally would?" Naruto quickly crossed her arms over her chest as she told Sasuke exactly how it was. "Just because my body's a girl doesn't mean I, myself, am a girl. I'll dress however I want to. What's with you anyways?" She glared up at the raven-haired male. "Does Uchiha Sasuke like me better dressed like a girl?" There was a pause. The Uchiha was obviously contemplating the question. "What happens if I say yes?" inquired Sasuke curiously as he lifted a hand to place against Naruto's cheek and caressed his fingers through the spiky blonde hair. The blonde froze. She hadn't expected anything like this from Sasuke and didn't have a comeback for it. His hand pressed softly against her face made her nervous and the touch felt hot. I don't know. Sasuke rolled his eyes a bit. "I was just kidding," he said as he pulled his hand away from the blonde's face. I wouldn't be stupid enough to try something like Kiba did, but really Naruto, you do need to try and fight back when someone does that. Naruto's mind was spinning very rapidly. Sasuke shouldn't do those things anymore. And when did he start? Kidding. It hurt Naruto's head and confused her, and disappointed her a little. Why did everything to Sasuke have to be a joke right now? Naruto was really feeling bad about being a girl, but no one seemed to really care. There was a small pause until Sasuke went on to fully answer Naruto's question. I like you either way, so it doesn't matter if I say yes or no. Nani. Naruto's heart started slamming against her chest and she got a feeling in her stomach that made her feel as if she was nauseous, making the blonde have trouble with knowing how to act suddenly since this was how Sakura used to make her feel way back when they were 12. Damn it. Why now of all times? And towards him. Well, I'm going shopping with Sakura-chan, so goodbye. Naruto chattered rapidly, not realizing that Sasuke could barely understand a thing coming out of her mouth. She was about to run for the door again, but there was a grab to her elbow and she fell back against Sasuke's chest. She could feel her face heat up to this. Why is he doing this to me? Is he trying to make me feel stupid? I get like this every time I touch him. Listen. What do you want now? The Uchiha turned Naruto around and held onto her shoulders, bending over slightly to stare her straight in the eye as he spoke. Be careful not to do anything stupid that could get you hurt. He lightly tapped her forehead with his forefinger, pushing her head back slightly. Naruto tried to think of how to act and could only come up with one thing. She stuck her tongue out at Sasuke, like you'd care if I did. Pushed his hands away and ran for the door to go shopping with Sakura. Why am I acting this way? I don't really want to push him away, but. Sasuke watched as the two girls ventured off to go shopping with one another. It would get dark within a few hours, and if Naruto was going shopping with a girl, then it wasn't going to be a quick trip. He didn't like the thought of not being by Naruto's side while she was out in Konoha where a bunch of guys like Kiba could hit on her, especially if they stayed out until it grew dark. But she would be okay if Sakura was with her. The pink-haired female wouldn't allow anyone to hurt Naruto. At least she better not. Anxiety set in the Uchiha's mind. The many possibilities of the two girls somehow getting separated rushed through his head. He could see Naruto acting like normal, just walking around cheerfully, not noticing all the eyes she attracted to herself. Some guy would make a move and the worst possible thing could happen. Endless flirting, improper touching, a bond being born. Another thing set in. What if Naruto got herself into it bad and the guy tried raping the blonde? 1. The Uchiha's eyes widened as he quickly drove his fingers to run through his hair in worry. He felt like an overprotective parent now that Naruto was a girl and it was killing him. He couldn't help it though. Naruto was an idiot and would fall for anything. Damn it. What should I do? Then again, Naruto was a pretty good fighter. She could handle herself if she got separated from Sakura, right? But Naruto's health could still be wavering. What would she be able to do if she was hurt and wouldn't be able to move much like the time she had jumped on Sasuke in the hospital? He paced the floor nervously. He wanted to go after the two girls so he could watch over Naruto, but then that would make the blonde suspicious the way she was when he had taken her away from the ramen bar. He didn't want a suspicious Naruto. What am I going to do? Yada. I'm finally out with Sakura-chan and she looks so happy. I wonder if maybe there is the possibility that she likes me, thought a very blissful blonde while gazing at Sakura admiringly. Hey, Naru-chan, what store should we go in first? Sakura asked happily as her eyes wandered about the shops they could enter. There was a stab at Naruto's heart at the title. Naru-chan. The blonde slumped over a tad, realizing that the reason for Sakura's cheerful expression was most likely because she now had a new girlfriend to talk about girly things with and didn't really like Naruto, Naruto being another girl in her eyes. She probably still likes Sasuke, thought Naruto bitterly. Her burning hatred for the male at the moment grew just thinking about him, but she rapidly went to whining. Why do you have to give me a girl name too, Sakura-chan? The title, Naru-chan, was just as bad as Haim-chan in Naruto's mind, and she already had to go through the nurses and the doctor calling her that, not wanting to repeat it with Sakura. The pink-haired female was already used to the idea of Naruto being a girl and didn't have a problem with calling her Naru-chan, but you're a girl now and Naruto sounds too masculine for a girl. The tears that Naruto had been fighting ever since she had gotten out of the hospital started to sting her eyes, but she quickly made it look as if she meant for that to happen, pressing her arm to her eyes and whined, "Not you too, Sakura-chan. Why must everyone treat me as a girl now? Is it that easy to think of me that way?" 2. There was a giggle from Sakura, thinking that Naruto was joking as usual, and she lightly pulled Naruto into an apologetic hug. "I'm sorry. Forgive me." Azure eyes met with Sakura's pretty green ones as the two of them hugged one another. How could she say no to Sakura when she looked so sweet and sincere? Plus, she got a hug out of it. Yeah. With that, Sakura broke the comforting hug and happily went on to pull Naruto into the nearest shop. "Great. Now let's go in here first, Naru-chan. It has a lot of cute dresses that I bet would look good on you." Dresses. It took a moment before the word seemed to have significant value. Dresses, stammered the horror-stricken blonde. Sakura sounded a little too happy as she spoke. "Yeah. I think you would look adorable in a dress." "Why me?" Naruto could accept Sakura calling her Naru-chan, but putting her into dresses now. Why did Naruto take Sakura up on her offer to go shopping anyways? Oh, yeah, because it was Sakura that she was going with, that meant time that the two of them could have alone. Oh, and Naru-chan, we'll be meeting up with a few more people that wanted to help look for kawaii clothes for you. Naruto mentally felt a knife sink into her again. So much for it being just us together, thought the blonde mournfully. You know, Sakura trailed off as she flipped through a rack of dresses, picking out a pink frilly one. Naruto flinched at the sight. "I think any of these dresses would look cute on you." Really, the look in Sakura's eyes said that she wanted to put the pink garment on Naruto. "Put that pink thing on me, Sakura-chan, and I'll never be able to forgive you even if you plead on your hands and knees." Sakura gave Naruto's orange and black jacket a disgusted look. "You just need to get rid of that." Naruto looked down at her jacket. "No way in hell. I happen to like my jacket. No one can separate me from it." The pink frilly dress made its way in front of Naruto's view of her jacket. Sakura had apparently wanted to get a mental image of how it would look on the blonde, as she seemed to be very serious and calculating about the whole thing, as if she were some kind of expert in this area. This caused Naruto's face to scrunch up in disgust and her mouth fell agape at the sight of the thing touching her. She thought for a moment that the horrid pink thing was burning her, but she was mistaken. It was only her eyes that stung from the sight of the ugly garment resting against her own clothes. It could never take the place of Naruto's jacket. "Ah, this would look so cute on you, Naru-chan. You just need to fix your hair so it won't take away the good looks from your cute figure." Sakura quickly ran her fingers through the blonde spikes of hair as an idea hit her suddenly, and she grabbed Naruto by the wrist, pulling her to the nearest bathroom. "What did I get myself into?" The blonde pulled on a lock of her hair gently, not used to having it sitting straight. It looked the way it had when the nurses fixed it up, and Sakura had even pulled the jacket from being tucked in to give her the same cutesy look she had had earlier. "At least I'm wearing my jacket." Sakura had wanted to buy Naruto that thing that Sakura swore up and down looked cute on Naruto. She had gone so far as to actually dress the blonde in the hideous pink garment, making Naruto look ridiculous in her opinion. Just as she had mentally thought, she would never be able to forgive Sakura for dressing her into that pink dress. It was humiliating. Now the two of them were patiently waiting for the people that Sakura had said would be joining them. They stood outside of the dress shop that they had recently been in, and Sakura went on to talk about other girly things they could do. All the things she mentioned scared the poor blonde into never wanting to hang out with Sakura again. Things such as getting a perm together, getting their nails done, going and seeing chick flicks. The list kept going and going, making Naruto fear her future life being a girl. "Hey," called Sakura to a group of people heading for them. Obviously they were the group that Sakura had arranged to meet with. "Ino, Tenten, Hinata, over here." Naruto groaned. Here she was already stuck with Sakura, an apparent girly girl at times. But now it was different. She also had to put up with Ino, she being worse than Sakura when it came to girl matters. Then there was Tenten. She, like Sakura, also liked the color pink, but other than that Naruto couldn't think of how girly she was. Hinata would probably be Naruto's savior. She didn't act too girly nor did she show a hatred for jackets since she wore one as well. Right. So I should probably stick around with Hinata for the majority of the time. The group quickly made their way to Sakura and Naruto, Ino and Tenten complimenting the blonde on how cute she was even though she was wearing that ugly jacket. This comment came from Ino, but Naruto ignored it as Sakura agreed with the other blonde girl that the jacket was indeed ugly. I don't see anything wrong with Naruto-kun's jacket, stuttered Hinata a little sheepishly. Naruto's eyes widened. What did you just call me, Hinata? The blonde quickly inquired as she made a grab at the girl's shoulders and looked her right in the eyes. The Hyuga girl's face turned red as she stammered, NN Naruto-kun. Scared that maybe the name was offensive to Naruto now that she was a girl. Oh. The blonde quickly glommed Hinata. Keep calling me that. It makes me happy. Hinata was the only one that bothered to call Naruto the same thing she always called her without acting weird about it, unlike a certain Uchiha, and that really meant something to her. After quickly asking Hinata if she was okay since she kind of collapsed when Naruto let her go, the group started off to go shopping. Naruto stayed by Hinata's side, afraid of what the other girls might force her into if she stayed near them while looking over the clothing. Hinata didn't look at dresses and instead looked at more normal things such as shirts and jackets. This made Naruto very happy as she chattered to the Hyuga girl about everything since they had last met and thanked her upon remembering the fact that she had wanted to give Naruto a bowl of ramen to cheer her up while in the hospital, receiving a blush as a response and a quick, "You're welcome." If only the entire shopping spree could have gone like that, but no. Many times did the blonde get dragged off to try on a number of things that Ino, Sakura, and Tenten picked out for her. Ino and Sakura picking out the most girly outfits Naruto had ever seen, some even had cutesy lace. Naruto thought she might gag when seeing herself in these types of clothes, while Tenten didn't pick out too girly of things, but they weren't to Naruto's liking either. At least they didn't have lace, thought Naruto a little mournful. Once the group had come together again outside of the previous shop, only a couple bags of clothing in hand since Naruto was what Ino and Sakura called picky, Naruto thought of something that these girls might be good at that could help her. Hey, what would you girls do if you wanted to get back at a guy for being mean and insensitive towards you? Naruto decided that she wanted to know how a girl would handle this kind of matter and see if any of their ideas would be fun to try. The Hyuga glanced over to the blonde and quickly whispered, "Are you talking about Sasuke-kun?" 3. Naruto had told her of everything that the Uchiha had done to her since she got out of the hospital, so Hinata suspected that Naruto meant him. Naruto quickly shushed her and whispered back, "I'm dealing with two of the biggest Sasuke fans, so I can't mention names here or else I won't get any feedback from them." And looked back to the pondering girls. "Beat the hell out of the guy," spoke an irritated Sakura. There was a moment of silence as the four girls stared at Sakura a little confused, but Naruto had suspicion as to who it was. The only guy she seemed to really detest at times and beat up was Sai. No. Ino glared at Sakura. "What you do is embarrass the hell out of the guy, not beat him. What fun is that?" The two girls scowled at one another as they argued over the matter, repeating, "Beat him, embarrass him," over and over until Naruto's attention was brought to Tenten out of boredom. She was ignoring the other two as she looked to be in deep thought. "It really depends on." Her brown eyes met azure, "whether you like the guy or not." Both Naruto's and Hinata's face glowed red. Why would I like a guy? Especially that one, shouted the now fuming blonde, not giving thought to the fact that she was now a girl so it wouldn't exactly be considered strange. Tenten quickly placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder and whispered to her, "Just tell me if you do or don't. If you do then I can help you, if you don't then you're better off with information from Ino or Sakura." Thing was, Naruto didn't want to beat up or embarrass Sasuke. Beating him up would probably get her into trouble and she would most likely get a few scars as well. As for embarrassing him, she'd love to do that, but she didn't know what would embarrass him, so that was ruled out immediately. Naruto glanced at Hinata. The Hyuga wouldn't have any ideas for getting back at someone because she was too sweet to do something such as that. "I guess I'll have to go with what Tenten has to give me, but that means I have to admit that I like the Tem. Okay, I kind of like this guy." It felt like something had struck Naruto at admitting this bit of information. Her heart started racing and she felt her face grow hot. Why do I keep feeling this way when anything has to do with him? It's really pissing me off. I mean, sure, I like Sasuke, but I don't feel, do I? She felt the look of surprise that Hinata gave her, Hinata being the only one that knew who it was they were talking about and felt embarrassed. She turned quickly to the Hyuga and whispered in her ear so Tenten wouldn't hear, I'd never like him, so don't worry about it, Hinata. I just need some way to get back at Hwa. There was a grab at Naruto's wrist as Tenten pretty much kidnapped her from the excited girl hurriedly called over her shoulder to the other three, hey, don't worry about what Naruto just said. I can take care of this. Leaving 2/3 of the group a little puzzled as to what had happened since they were arguing so much with one another. Naruto, still contemplating previous thoughts, let Tenten pull her away from the group, but was a little nervous with why they had to be away from everyone else to be told what to do for vengeance. Was it something that bad or what? The two of them entered a nearby store that Naruto wasn't very happy to see, it being a shop of girls' undergarments. Thankfully Tenten paid none of the items any attention and marched straight to the back of the store and into the dressing room area. Naruto was forced into a small dressing compartment with Tenten following in right behind her. First question Naruto, spoke the girl excitedly. The blonde blinked a couple of times at her enthusiasm towards getting back at someone for her. Okay, what is it? Tenten's face grew mischievous as she asked, do you know how to seduce? Naruto sat there, slowly putting two and two together. Seduce. Seduce. Comma. You want me to seduce him? Naruto could not understand why Tenten suggested that to be a way of payback, since it was more for the people that liked. Comma. Oh, crap, I did say that I liked him. There was silence as this set in her mind. Then, how exactly am I supposed to seduce this guy? I don't even think he can be seduced. Really? Could Uchiha Sasuke be flustered by anything? A devilish smile spread across Tenten's face. This was something that Naruto was not used to seeing from someone such as Tenten. She liked this kind of thing apparently. Do you know why we're in a store that sells girls' underwear, Naruto? The blonde shivered at the thought. There's no way in hell that you'll get me into girls' underwear. That's going too far. Tenten shrugged. It's a good way for seduction. Then again, I guess Uzumaki Naruto is too scared to take up a challenge. The brunette sighed and was about to exit the compartment when Naruto's hand made a snatch at her shoulder. Uzumaki Naruto never backs down from a challenge. She quickly pulled Tenten back into the dressing compartment. So, what type of underwear? You're buying. I can seduce, but I need ideas. Tell me everything right here, right now. She said rapidly. Whenever someone said that Naruto wouldn't be up to the challenge, it got her riled up. Uchiha Sasuke. You better be ready for me when I get back from this hell because I'm going all out on this just to get back at you for being mean to me. Naruto and Tenten exited the underwear store that they had been in and ran into Ino, Sakura, and Hinata when coming out. The two girly girls glanced down at the new bag amongst the other two in Naruto's hands and back up to her red face. Looks like Naru-chan got pretty undergarments for her boyfriend, teased Ino as she giggled to herself. Sakura and Hinata looked at one another before the pink-haired female giggled as well and the Hyuga blushed at the comment. Naruto felt embarrassed and wanted to hide, but Tenten placed a hand on her shoulder to keep her where she was. The female quickly spoke to the other three, Naruto needs girl underwear just like any girl would. She felt that my plan for payback was too cliché and wouldn't be very amusing, so we just looked for underwear. She pointed to the bag in Naruto's hands, saying this, it isn't for payback purposes at all. A small smile formed on Naruto's face. Tenten was protecting her from embarrassment, now that she knew that Naruto wasn't too fond of her new gender. Naruto made it clear to Tenten that she didn't like being teased about being a girl and Tenten seemed to understand a little. A friendly bond between the two grew and Naruto felt that she could really trust Tenten. Ino scowled at the ground. And here I thought that it would be a good way to get back at a guy. Dressing to seduce guys is something that I find fun when it comes to payback. The pink-haired female rolled her eyes and crossed her arms over her chest, glancing at the clothing that Ino wore that showed almost all of her skin. That's a big surprise. What was that billboard brow? The group looked to Hinata as she spoke up so they could hear her. Seduction wouldn't be the best thing for Naruto-kun anyway. I mean, what if the boy thought something different by her seducing him? Naruto thought about this seriously. There was no way that Sasuke would think that Naruto meant anything by it. He was too cold and cruel to have such feelings from being seduced. That was the reason why Naruto felt that Tenten's plan wouldn't work, but she wasn't about to drop the challenge. Don't worry about me, Hinata. I would never seduce anyone. The blonde smiled to the shy girl, who blushed in turn. The majority of the group gave Naruto skeptical looks as they thought, then what was up with that jutsu you used to do all the time, but they kept their comments to themselves. What's this I hear about seducing? The group turned to the person that had spoken. He stood only a few feet away from them and had apparently eavesdropped on the group's conversation. Sakura didn't look too thrilled to see the guy as she questioned, "What do you want, Sai?" The male greeted her with no trace of emotion on his face. "Hello, ugly hag. I just wanted to know what was going on, seeing that Naruto is out of the hospital now. Why is it that I'm the last to find this out?" Sakura twitched at being called ugly hag, and a bloodlust filled the air, making the group look back and forth between Sakura and Sai a little worriedly. Naruto quickly interfered by putting in her own response, "Hey, Sai. I got out a few hours ago actually, so it's not like you missed much. And ignore that whole seduction thing. It's nothing." The blonde hid the bags behind her back, seeing that that was what the male was staring at. "So, Naruto," Sai started as his dark eyes came to stare directly into the blonde's. "I've been meaning to ask you this." "Yeah," Sai spoke bluntly, "what's it like to be a true wonder?" The poor blonde was so taken aback by the question that she dropped her bags and stared agape at Sai. Sakura, on the other hand, was quick to driving a fist into Sai's face at the question and yelled at him as he hit the ground rather hard, "Leave Naruto-chan alone or I'll kill you." Fuming the whole while, making Naruto's shocked feeling go away, replaced by warmth from the protective action Sakura made for her sake. Naruto-kun. The blonde turned to Hinata, seeing that the female had the bags Naruto had dropped in her hands and was holding them out to Naruto to take. "Ah, thank you, Hinata," she said happily as she took the bags from the Hyuga girl. "Nay, Naruto-chan," spoke the other blonde to Naruto, "Sai isn't the guy that's giving you a hard time is he?" Only to receive a quick shake of the head from Naruto. "Damn, thought I figured it out." Naruto turned to Tenten, "What is she up to?" She whispered to the brunette. Tenten shrugged. "I guess she wants to figure out who your mystery man is without help from anyone." "Great. She'll kill me if she finds out that it's Sasuke-kun." A whisper went right into Naruto's ear, "So, who is it?" And she turned to Tenten. She looked very hopeful that Naruto would tell her, making the blonde feel guilty as she said, "I'm not telling," receiving an "ah" from the female. Naruto didn't want anyone knowing that it was Sasuke. Hinata was more than enough, so for now Naruto wouldn't tell. After Sakura made Sai formally apologize to Naruto for the unneeded question he had asked, the male seemed to want to stick around with the girls. Ino and Sakura quickly shouted, "No," and tried to get him to leave, but to no prevail. He was glued to Naruto's side as he spoke with the blonde, asking what it was like being a girl so suddenly. This was a touchy subject for Naruto, so she didn't say much and had Tenten back her up at one point, telling Sai that he should be a little more considerate of Naruto's feelings. Sai was a little puzzled, not understanding why it was such a big deal, but seeing the glares that he was receiving from a certain pink-haired female he kept quiet about the topic. The group was sitting at the ramen bar. Sakura stood on one side of Naruto to keep an eye on Sai since he was standing on the other side of her blonde friend. The rest of the group sat on the stools. Naruto sat between Hinata and Tenten since she felt closer to the two of them than she did with Ino. "No offense Ino," thought Naruto as she glanced towards the other blonde, who looked as if she could care less about where she sat regardless and took the stool by Tenten. The group wanted to spoil Naruto and decided to take her to the ramen bar since all of them finally figured out that the blonde was having problems with the process of being a girl. It was no surprise to the girl portion of the group since it was obvious that it's not easy being a girl, said the long, blonde-haired female, who was quickly in the ribs by Tenten and told that she wasn't making the matter any better. The only thing that Naruto was sad about now, even compared to becoming a girl, was that the ramen was no longer on discount. "Hey, boss," spoke the now depressed blonde upon finding that she would have to pay full price even though it had only been a few hours since the discount had started. why do you no longer have the ramen on discount? The older man scratched the back of his head, glanced about and looked Naruto in the eyes. Well, it wasn't supposed to get out to everyone in the first place. I did the discount for you, hearing from a reliable source that you were getting out of the hospital today, but things kind of got crazy when someone picked up on the conversation. Tenten looked thoughtful. You should be thanking him, Naruto. He lost a lot because of that. The man smiled and waved his hands. No, it was my fault, not Naruto's, so it's all fine. Sai seemed to be deep in thought at what was being said and slowly questioned the man. Who was it that told you about Naruto getting out of the hospital? Geez, thought the blonde as Sai finished his question, he's really sore about not finding out that I got out of the hospital before everyone else. He told me not to mention it to anyone, so I can't say. Naruto became pensive. The only guy that knew she was getting out of the hospital before everyone else was Sasuke. Could it have possibly been him? That sent her mind to reeling as she had her own question that she wanted answered. Did this guy ask for you to make the discount? There was a pause as the group stared at the man, who made himself busy with making their ramen orders, not saying a thing in response. I knew it. That was why Sasuke offered to pay for my ramen, because it was on a discount. Not because he wanted to be nice and buy me ramen. The fuming blonde was more willing to get vengeance on the Uchiha now that this bit of information was revealed. Naruto questioned Sai suddenly as he glanced off into the streets of Konoha. I'm interested by something, about when you were talking about seduction. He turned back to Naruto, seeing that he had gotten the attention of the girls as well. Could you really pull off something like that? What's that supposed to mean? Growled the blonde. You don't think I could, do you? Sai gave a small smile to this. I believe that you could. I mean, you had that jutsu, but can you do it when you're not pretending to be a girl, since you really are one now? He gave a pause for Naruto to think this over in her head. I want to make a bet that you can't flirt with a guy for, how about, 1 hour? Naruto's azure eyes looked dead into Sai's. Are you willing to make this bet, Naruto? All the other girls chattered to one another about this. Sakura, against the idea, being more protective over Naruto. And Ino, for the idea, thinking that it would be fun to watch Naruto flirt with a guy, argued over the matter with one another about it. Hinata whispered shyly to Naruto that it could be dangerous to do something like that, also being one to protect Naruto, and Tenten, all for the idea like Ino, whispering in the blonde's other ear that it would give her practice for when she seduced the guy they had talked about earlier. Sai gave a slight smirk to Naruto as he asked teasingly, is Uzumaki Naruto afraid that she would lose the bet? Naruto shot off the stool and faced Sai hotly, growling under her breath, what do I get if I win? Sakura groaned and placed her head into her hands as Hinata looked down at the ground a little disappointed. Ino and Tenten cheered the blonde on and laughed with one another as they thought of how this was going to play out. The smirk on Sai's face grew as he said with a bit of bliss in his voice, for 1 month, I'll pay for your ramen when you come to the ramen bar, whatever time you want me to. The look on Naruto's face was full of pleasure as she stuttered, a month of FF-free ramen. And quickly accepted the challenge, reaching out for Sai's hand to shake. Sai reached out and gripped a hold of Naruto's hand, squeezing it tightly as he pulled Naruto a step closer to him. Oh, and if you lose, you have to go on a date with me. Naruto stared dumbfounded at the male as he gave a polite smile in return. A date. My first date would be with Sai, if I lose this. The 4 girls standing around Naruto and Sai grew quiet. Sakura let her head droop a bit as she uttered the word, Baka. Hinata looked worried as she said a silent, good luck, Naruto-kun. Ino and Tenten couldn't be happier with the stakes so high the way they were, though they both admitted loudly for Naruto to hear that she should have waited for Sai's part of the deal before agreeing. Ino couldn't help herself as she laughed over the matter and spoke between fits, as Sakura had said Naruto really is a baka. Naruto felt her insides crumble in fear of the possibility of losing, but quickly reassured herself as she remembered all the guys she had swayed by using the sexy jutsu. This should be a piece of cake. That guy. You want me to flirt with him? What kind of sick person are you? Naruto was now wearing one of the outfits that Sakura had bought for her. On the whole, Sakura bought her 2 items of clothing, Tenten bought her the undergarments, and Ino forced a pair of night clothes on her. These items were now in the 3 bags held by Hinata. Ino and Tenten said that Naruto would do better if she was dressed the part and put her into the tight-fitting, sleeveless shirt that had light pink, hot pink, black, and white lines running in a horizontal direction. Naruto twitched when they showed her the shirt, but since it wasn't as bad as some of the other shirts they tried getting her, she was also made to wear tight, black short shorts. The blonde did not like the way they fit, they were too tight. Wearing boxers was out of the question when it came to these shorts, so she was wearing the underwear Tenten bought her underneath. She wasn't too forgiving that Sakura had bought her these things since she knew that Naruto couldn't say no, in fear that she would hurt Sakura's feelings. She had given herself a quick look when dressed and found that she looked like an innocent girl that you couldn't help but want to hug since she was so little, and at the same time the tight shirt and short shorts screamed. The sight terrified Naruto. If anyone dared touch her like Kiba had, she would murder without hesitating. Sai nodded to the blonde's first 2 questions, but replied, "You said you could flirt with any guy, so what's wrong with him?" To the last question, Ino and Tenten were roaring with laughter just behind Naruto. Sakura was muffling her giggles and Hinata stared at the person in which Naruto was to flirt with. She didn't see much humor in this like the others. The group acted as they were ninjas, and spied on the unsuspecting boy from a rooftop. Naruto glared at Sai for his comment and quickly pointed down towards the male they were conversing about. He wore all green, had a horrible taste in hairstyling, and his eyebrows were monstrous. What's not wrong with Rock Lee? Don't let him hear you, Naruto. Tenten said behind tears of laughter, trying to keep quiet herself. He might find out what we're doing if you yell. Sure you don't want to back out? Spoke an almost concerned Sakura between giggles as she watched the male from where they stood. Ino and Tenten shushed Sakura. They wanted to be entertained and they wouldn't be able to if Sakura tried getting Naruto to chicken out. Hinata stood by Naruto's side, watching worriedly as the blonde's expression grew very serious at the question Sakura had asked. Uzumaki Naruto doesn't back down from a challenge. The 3 girls acted like they were about to bust a gut and held onto their stomachs for dear life. Be careful, Naruto-kun, spoke the Hyuga female in a comforting voice as Ino and Tenten tried pushing Naruto off the roof to go flirt with the guy. They couldn't be patient any longer. The blonde growled at the 2 girls, thanked Hinata, looked at Sakura a little mournfully and gave Sai the evil eye before she hopped down from the rooftop into the streets of Konoha. What have I gotten myself into now? Seeing Lee only a little ways away, Naruto shivered at the thought of flirting with him, but chased after him regardless. Hopefully a month's worth of ramen would be worth it. I'm doing the same thing as the sexy jutsu. What would I do while in the sexy jutsu? For some reason Naruto's thought process while in the sexy jutsu was different compared to being in her normal form. Maybe it boosted her confidence. Hey, Naruto called out to the male, but remembered she was supposed to be flirting and quickly changed her voice to sound cutesy like a girl. Oh, Rock Lee. And grabbed the back of his green vest when she came up to him, tugging lightly. Her mind started whirling and felt as if it made clicking sounds when she thought of ideas as to what she could do when the male turned to her and politely greeted her. Oh, hello Naruto-kun. Then he looked horrified. I mean, Naruto-chan, or. Naruto quickly interrupted him. You can call me anything you want. I don't mind, and gave him an obvious, I want you, look. I couldn't help but notice how Naruto felt like she was about to gag, but refrained from doing so. How you look today. She had changed the sound of her voice again to a sound seductive. Oh, my God. I'm going to be sick. And I can't run away and transform because I'm not in the sexy jutsu. Plus, I'm in a bet. Why did I make that stupid bet anyways? Oh yeah. Because I wanted ramen. Lee gave Naruto a questioning look, but went with what she said. Well, that is why I'm called the Green Beast of Konoha. He made a dramatic pose to the title and grinned. What the hell? Did he just add the part? And why the hell is he not flustered? He just agrees with me. How many people call him? Not very many, I'm sure, so why isn't he being all sappy over this? Apparently I'll have to try harder. This only motivated the blonde even more. She knew that all of her friends were probably rolling around on the rooftops, laughing their heads off at this, but she was going to get through this bet. Green Beast. Huh, I'll say you're a beast. Naruto made a cat row after this and took a couple steps closer towards Lee, her eyes half closed to give off the fact that she mentally wanted to kill herself, checking Lee out. This seemed to confuse Lee again as he slowly asked Naruto, "Are you feeling okay, Naruto-chan? I do not recall anyone talking like a cat before this. Maybe you have come down with some kind of illness. Did you escape from the hospital before they were able to prescribe all of your medications to you? Arg. What the hell's wrong with this guy? Does he not understand when someone's flirting with him? No. Lee." She practically screamed in his face, becoming frustrated. "I'm checking you out for crying out loud. I said I've even been giving you the freaking. I want you. Look." And the cat noise falls under the same thing. Arg. She slapped her hand to her forehead. For some reason it felt like she was getting a headache and it really hurt. I've never dealt with someone so hard to sway. If bushy brow is this hard, then what will it be like dealing with Sasuke? Ah. That'll be impossible. Is that true, Naruto-chan? The blonde looked back to Lee, seeing his face flushed and shocked. Her eyes widened when she saw his eyes brighten up. "Oh, my, please don't let him fall for me like he did Sakura-chan." Naruto slowly nodded her head to Lee and the male's mouth kind of fell open as he stared wide-eyed at her. "Oh, do you not think that way of me?" she said a little bluntly. Rock Lee's face turned red and he started stuttering. Well, I did find you to be an amazing person, Naruto-chan, but never before had I thought about you possibly developing a crush on me. Now it was Naruto's turn to have her mouth fall open. Yes, this was what she was working up to, but for some reason when Lee said it freaked her out. Sai did this on purpose. He wanted me to suffer for reasons unknown to me. She made a quick glance to the rooftops. I hate you, Sai. I'll make you go broke from all the ramen you'll have to buy me. 30 minutes passed by as the group watching over Naruto stood in a store, acting as if they were shopping, but they didn't show any signs of doing so since their eyes were diverted away from all the items in the shop. They watched as Lee and Naruto sat across from the very place they were in, Naruto obviously hitting on the male who didn't seem to mind very much, though it looked to make him flustered now. They could tell how much it disturbed Naruto to be doing this, and 3 of the 4 girls had to fight back the laughter, while Hinata and Sai watched on rather seriously. I have to admit, Sakura giggled as she walked over towards the male, this was a pretty fun idea you came up with. She grinned to him, but found that he was way into what Lee and Naruto were doing to respond. Sai glanced towards her, then shot his eyes back at Naruto. I was for sure this would have been harder for her. She's doing better than I thought. The pink-haired female could tell he was being serious. Do you want to go out with Naru-chan? The question remained unanswered as Sai spoke. They're leaving, which sent Ino and Tenten into a frenzy. Ino jumped up and down, excitedly speaking, "Yada. I couldn't stand being in here anymore." As she practically ran out of the store with Tenten on her heels. Sai stalked off after them. Sakura-chan, are you okay? Questioned Hinata worriedly when seeing Sakura stare off after the male. Oh, yeah, I'm fine, Hinata. Sakura smiled and nodded to the door, suggesting they go too. Hinata gave her a shy nod and walked off after the rest of the group, with Sakura following not too far behind. Where the hell is Sakura and the Dobi? For the past 10 minutes Uchiha Sasuke had searched the streets for the 2 girls and had yet to find them, making his uneasy feelings grow. His eyes scanned the street frantically for Naruto. Maybe he should have left his house sooner and followed the 2 girls, but that would have been too much. But if anything had happened to Naruto again, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. That's when blonde hair met with Sasuke's eyes as he saw Naru. What the hell is she dressed in? Seeing Naruto's clothing shocked the Uchiha as he stared wide-eyed at her. Something that short and that tight should not be put on her. It took a moment for Sasuke's eyes to remove themselves from said area, but when they did he felt utterly confused. Naruto was smiling and laughing with Rock Lee. Why is she with him? He quickly shook his head, thinking there was no way that they were doing anything more than just talking. It was Rock Lee, for crying out loud. What would Naruto possibly see in him? Sasuke flushed when he realized something. He was jealous. Just because Naruto looked happier with someone like Lee than she did when she was around him. Jealousy is not a good thing and Sasuke knew this. He would never admit it, but he wanted to be the one that Naruto laughed and smiled with, not some guy like Rock Lee. He was about to march in the two's direction to take Naruto back to his house, but a pair of hands reached out and grabbed him from behind and pulled him backwards. When the pulling had stopped and Sasuke was allowed to figure out what had happened, he quickly pushed the hands from his shoulders as Sakura along with Ino, Tenten, and Hinata stood around him. The hands belonged to Sai, who was now watching Naruto from where they stood, a little tea shop that had people loitering about to cover them from the blonde's sight, to see what was taking place between Naruto and Lee. It looked like a stakeout to Sasuke as he watched, a little puzzled when everyone had completely ignored him and went back to leaning forward and watching Naruto like a hawk. Something about this didn't seem right. He was surrounded by 4 girls, 2 being die-hard Uchiha Sasuke fans, and yet, he was being ignored. What the hell is Naruto doing that's so entertaining? What's going on? Demanded the furious Uchiha when everyone acted like it was normal to sit and gawk at 2 people from afar. Sai thought of the question for a moment then replied, "We're watching Naruto flirt with that Lee guy over there." FFF flirt. Sasuke was completely shocked and couldn't believe this. Naruto flirt with Rock Lee. What was wrong with this picture? When Sasuke saw that he had grabbed the whole group's attention by acting this way, he turned his expression back into the normal calm and not caring expression that he usually had on. The pink-haired female turned to Sai and elbowed him. "Quit lying." She turned to Sasuke and quickly reassured him that Naruto wasn't flirting with Lee on account of intimate feelings, that she was sucked into it by her greed for ramen because Sai wanted some form of entertainment for the day and he just so happened to walk by Naruto and bribed her into it. This didn't exactly reassure Sasuke. He just wanted to beat the hell out of Sai now, but refrained from doing so as there was a squeal mixed with laughter made by Ino and he turned to see what had happened. Sasuke watched as Naruto was pulled into a hug by Lee, the Uchiha's mouth parted slightly. Tenten was no longer amused by this. "I think Lee's really being serious about all of this. I mean, sure the guy's overdramatic and all, but after watching how he's been reacting towards Naruto all this time, then this," she looked over to Ino, "what do you think?" And became curious, watching Sasuke's face while he looked out at Naruto and Lee. The blonde female's smile subsided and she thought about this. "Well, now that you mention it, he does seem to be acting like he likes Naruto-chan." Sasuke glared off at Lee. It felt like something snapped inside him. Ino couldn't contain herself though, as she came out of her pensive state and back into her giddy mode, but he hugged her. He hugged her. Sure, the guy's really creepy, but at the same time it's kind of sweet, in a bizarre and weird way. Ino quickly turned back to the brunette next to her and smirked. "Hey, Tenten, how much you want to bet that Naruto-chan gets kissed before this is over?" The Uchiha flinched. "Kiss? I don't think Naruto-kun would like that very much," spoke the shy female, watching worriedly as Naruto finally broke from the hug with the male. "I think Naruto-kun would rather be him, herself and not do any of this." Sasuke repeated Hinata's words to himself. She had a point. Even when Naruto did the sexy jutsu, she never flirted for such a large amount of time with someone, no matter who they were. Knowing this, Sasuke strode out of the area in which they were hiding. Sasuke-kun, spoke the pink-haired female rather quickly, "if you go out there and stop her now, she'll have to go out with," she pointed angrily at Sai, "that thing." Sai didn't seem to take offense to being called a thing, and shrugged. "Let him do it. I don't mind going out with her." Sasuke turned back towards the group, locking his eyes directly with Sai's. What was that? Trying his best to remain calm and collected about the new information bestowed upon him. Naruto marched down the street, trying to keep Lee from wrapping his arms around her again. She didn't like it so much, but he did. The only reason Lee had even hugged her was because she happened to agree with him on a subject that he felt strongly for, Sakura. Lee said that he no longer felt alone in the world since Naruto used to like Sakura as well. The hug, itself, wasn't too terribly long, but Naruto really couldn't imagine what she would do if he held her again. Maybe if he were Sasuke then. A blush spread across her face. Why did I suddenly think of him? An outburst of inner conflict took over her, now realizing that there was no hiding it from herself. Fine. I'll admit it already. I like the damn Tem, but I will not admit anything past that. I swear though, the next time Sasuke says something to me that's mean, or if he touches me it'll be the end of him. Naruto-chan? Questioned Lee, a little worried when Naruto was so quiet after they had been talking with one another for so long. Damn that name to hell. Lee had to keep referring to her as Naruto-chan, and it was driving her insane. I know that you had worded how you feel for me. Naruto felt exhausted suddenly at this, but, I was thinking, Naruto-chan. Lee became a little fidgety as he went on, I would like it if you would become my girlfriend. The azure eyes widened at his statement as she continued to walk on ahead. Did Naruto really attract this guy by playing him? She had thought that maybe she had just flustered him was all. This was getting out of hand. She needed to get out of this as quickly as possible, but she still had a while before the time was up. What was she going to do? Really? Yes. Lee slowly reached out and grabbed onto Naruto's shoulders to turn her around and spoke in his serious tone, I would die to protect you. Even if you were still Naruto-kun. The blonde would have twitched to this, but when he had made the statement that he would have protected her to the death even when she was a guy, something seemed to make her feel very happy, and the creepy feeling that Lee gave off went away. Lee was the first guy that treated Naruto the same as he had before. Sure, he asked her out, but she was the one that made the first move. Naruto was about to say how she felt about this, tell him thank you maybe, but she was pulled closer to Lee before she was able to. A little too close to him even when she had decided that he was no longer creepy. Lee, I just got a good mental image of you and now you're killing that image. I know that we have not had enough time to get to know one another better, Naruto-chan, but he's going to kiss me. Naruto wasn't fast enough to push Lee away and thought that her face was going to be pressed against Lee's in a kiss, but he made a sudden stop and gave a questioning, before he was thrown to the ground. Thank you. Whatever it was that made Lee stop from Uchiha Sasuke was now standing where Lee once stood and glared down at the male. This wasn't good. The last time this happened, Naruto got dragged off for no reason and had to put up with a moody Uchiha for a while. This time, however, she was the one that had started it, so Sasuke would probably be in a worse mood than before. Maybe he won't get mad since it's Lee. Then again, Sasuke's been weird, so there's no telling. Naruto felt that Sasuke was trying to play her parent. He fit the stereotypical parent, constantly telling her to be careful and getting on her case for such things like this. It was kind of annoying. There was no parental playing from Sasuke in his next move compared to the time when he had pulled her away from the scene at the ramen bar. Instead, the Uchiha grabbed Naruto's hand and pulled her towards him. What's he doing? Is he just going to take me away without a word to Lee? But Naruto was wrong. Don't touch her, the raven-haired male growled as he draped his arms around Naruto's waist, drawing her closer to him. She's mine. Naruto's eyes widened. She looked up into Sasuke's face to see if he was possibly screwing around, but it revealed nothing more than a serious expression as he continued to glare at Lee. I'm his. Is he serious? No matter how Naruto tried, all she could think about was what Sasuke had said to Rock Lee, holding onto her tenderly while saying it as if it were true. What did he mean by it though? Naruto wanted to ask so badly, but found herself feeling a little awkward now thanks to Sasuke and his stupid words. They were now in front of the Uchiha's home. Everything from the point where Sasuke had confessed that Naruto was his seemed to pass by rather fast. Naruto had been so dumbstruck at what had been said and didn't give a single thought to anything that had recently been important when seeing her group of friends that had been monitoring her progress with Rock Lee. She only remembered gathering her belongings from Hinata and leaving the group with a quick farewell since Sasuke obviously wanted to get home before anyone was able to comment on anything. The reality of it all hit Naruto suddenly at the thought of the Uchiha possibly being upset with her. He never acted out of character with her unless she had done something that seriously pissed him off. She stole a quick glance in Sasuke's direction to see if her hunch was correct, but he looked anything but angry, very nonchalant in fact. The look reminded Naruto of Sai. Oh, and if you lose, you have to go on a date with me. The bet. Even when Sai had been right there in front of her, she hadn't given a thought to the bet at all. Just thinking about the stupid jerk now reminded her of everything that she had been working for. Her thought process began spinning in fear of the possibility that Sasuke had taken her away from Lee before her time was up. What if she didn't make it? Would Sai really force her to go out with him? She was on good terms with Sai most of the time, but she didn't want to go out with him. Feeling frantic, and obviously looking it since the expression on Sasuke's face was that of concern and bewilderment, Naruto quickly grabbed onto Sasuke's shirt and tugged rapidly while questioning, "The bet. The bet. Did I win the bet?" If Sasuke didn't even understand what she was talking about, she would kill. She didn't care if she did like Sasuke as more than a friend, she would kill. The raven-haired male took it upon himself to give this thought before answering, something that seemed to lessen Naruto's lifespan by a few years in the process. "You didn't win. You still had about 5 minutes when I came into the picture. Was it possible to die from news such as this?" Naruto felt as if she had been shot. The perfect picture of Sai smirking and saying, "I won," completed her mental death and she froze in a state of shock. Naruto. The blonde didn't budge when Sasuke lightly tapped her forehead. "If it makes you feel better, I had a little talk with Sai. Come to find out that he was just joking when he said he wanted to go out with you." The Uchiha jumped when Naruto sprang to life all at once to this, but it didn't last long. Naruto's brow furrowed. "Sai," she said in a seething voice at the thought of flirting with Rock Lee for nothing. Her anger suddenly turned towards Sasuke. Sasuke. If he hadn't interfered, then she would be eating ramen right now. The male's gaze grew questioning. "What? Don't tell me you're mad that I got you out of that situation." He was surprised when Naruto continued her scowling. "Are you saying that you wanted Lee to kiss you?" His voice had a bit of a tremor to it. Naruto noticed the change in Sasuke's attitude. If you were around a stoic jerk that showed no real emotion to anything except things that upset him, then it wasn't hard to tell when he truly reacted to something. She smirked. "It was time to have some fun. I never said that I didn't want him to kiss me." She crossed her arms. "I'm a girl after all. Why wouldn't I want a guy to kiss me?" A trip to the bathroom and scrubbing her tongue with a bar of soap sounded heavenly. To think that Naruto admitted she was a girl. I'll never be able to respect myself ever again. But it would all be worth it when seeing Sasuke's expression. If said Uchiha was a kettle of water, he would be at boiling point. He obviously didn't even care if Naruto considered herself a girl, something that Naruto wouldn't normally do, therefore shouldn't he be worried? The blonde felt that she should point this out, but wasn't given a chance to do so. "When are you going to realize that what you're doing can be dangerous and hurt you?" Naruto found her shoulders in Sasuke's hands and he gripped tightly as if trying to hurt her. "Not every guy is going to be nice to you like Lee. What if it was someone else that could have had harmful intentions?" Naruto shoved his hands off her shoulders. "Like you. You're being the perfect example for people like that." For some reason, after Naruto had become a girl, Sasuke became a bigger jerk. She wondered if maybe he didn't realize this and wanted to tell him because she didn't like him treating her this way. She would rather him treat her the way he had when in front of Rock Lee. The Uchiha's brow furrowed over his eyes. He was not happy at all with what Naruto had just said, and she was glad. He shouldn't be happy at a remark like that. "Well, you need to quit being stupid and use your head for once in your life." Saint stupid. Was that how Sasuke always saw her? Being stupid. Then waiting in the background to save her from humiliation, followed up by rubbing it in her face that she was stupid. It was like this was his life goal or something. "You're the one being stupid. You've been acting so weird every single time another guy gets near me when he's my friend. You act like you're jealous or something." Jealous. Could Sasuke really be jealous? The words pierced into the raven-haired male, looking as if they truly did stab him, but he quickly pulled himself back together. "I don't get jealous," he growled at Naruto. Going on, he poked her forehead, speaking slowly, suggesting that Naruto wouldn't get it if he spoke at a normal pace. "Hime-chan." The air seemed to grow chilly as Naruto's expression remained unmoved by the title. She stood there, looking Sasuke in the eyes as her lips curled up into a smile. "Excuse me," and she grabbed the bags of clothing that Sakura, Ino, and Tenten had bought her and dashed for the bathroom. Payback time. Naruto. Sasuke watched perplexed as the blonde didn't come back at him yelling, throwing a fit, cursing, or doing anything Naruto normally did. Was she sick? She didn't even call him Tem. Something was up and he didn't like it. Come to think of it, she did consider herself a girl before. What if? Was it possible for someone's personality to completely change when going through a change? What if she really was beginning to think of herself as a girl? Then she would become interested in boys. That wouldn't be good. Wait, what if she finds an interest in? Sasuke quickly stopped himself, feeling embarrassed. What am I thinking? This is really serious. She could end up liking someone that could be very bad for her. A picture of Sai and Kiba fit this image of what Sasuke thought to be someone unfit for Naruto, followed by the familiar faces of every male in Konoha that Sasuke knew. He couldn't trust any of them. Sai would prove to be Sasuke's main concern from the large group of guys. He felt that there really was something between Naruto and Sai. Sai had taken Sasuke's place when he had been with Orochimaru after all, and the two had all of that bonding time while he was away. This upset the Uchiha greatly. But what Sasuke couldn't get was what Sai said to him before he got a chance to smash his face in for making such a bet with Naruto. I'll make a deal with you, Sasuke-kun. I won't go out with Naruto if you go out there and say that she's yours. Say it in front of Lee and Naruto and I'll drop the whole bet. What Sasuke couldn't figure out from this was why Sai would tell him this when Sai had mentioned that he didn't mind going out with Naruto. And then when Sasuke went and said that Naruto was his, Naruto never commented on it. She didn't even get mad like he thought she would. Were the two of them trying to confuse him, because it was working? Oh, Sasuke-kun, called what Sasuke believed to be Naruto's voice, but it sounded girly, and his thought process seemed to vanish. I love you, Sasuke-kun. Why does that seem so familiar? And just like that, it was Naruto that I was kissing in my dream. Coming to realize that it was indeed Naruto that he had been kissing in his dream that morning seemed to confirm how Sasuke felt about the blonde. He now knew that everything he did wasn't because he was worried about her as a friend, but something more. He had given this thought before, but didn't want to group himself with the likes of Sai or Kiba. What got to him even more was the fact that he had these feelings even before Naruto had become a girl. He quickly waved these thoughts away as he inched his way to the bathroom door, feeling very hesitant to being near it, afraid that Naruto was about to try something very sneaky. What it was, he wasn't sure of, but if it consisted of Naruto calling him Sasuke-kun, then it wasn't good. What do you want? He made no move to open the door. Last time that happened, he saw something that he didn't need to see. Come in here. I need to ask you something, spoke the girly voice that was Naruto. The Uchiha sighed and reluctantly twisted the knob, opening the door rather slowly before entering. What is? His mouth fell ajar before he got a chance to finish. There stood Naruto, in front of the mirror and looking over herself, wearing nothing but underwear, girls' underwear. Both of the provocative pieces of cloth were black and had almost see-through flowers wrapping around the legs and waistline of the panties and upper area of the bra. The panties were very tight around Naruto's, he came to realize, not able to take his eyes from the area. The sight looked very inviting. He had always imagined the blondes to feel soft, smooth, and what the hell am I thinking? He somehow found a form of resistance and made his eyes divert their attention a little higher only to regret this as well. He noticed the back of Naruto's bra undone and one of the straps on her shoulder slipped down her arm. You would think that this wouldn't cause the Uchiha any more excitement than when he had seen Naruto with nothing on at all, but for some reason this turned him on even more as he stood there with his mouth hanging open from the shock. Maybe it was the fact that Naruto wanted Sasuke for something while dressed like this. What the hell would she want while like this? She couldn't possibly. Sasuke felt his face flush. No, Naruto isn't like that. She would never. In attempt to drive thoughts from his mind he tried to say something, anything, but nothing would come out of his mouth. Was it possible to have your vocal cords snap at this kind of sight? The urge to walk over and hit Naruto for dressing like this and calling him in coursed through his body, and he thought of doing it until an urge to walk over and touch the blonde fell in place of it. That would most definitely not be good. He was able to remain in control and did neither to his relief, but ground his teeth together upon realizing that his lustful feelings for the blonde created a problem that wasn't as easy to control. Damn it, I can't. Sasuke closed his eyes and held them shut to keep from looking at Naruto. This was too humiliating and not needed at all. What if Naruto noticed how he was acting? Or that he was excited because of her? Okay, so Naruto got dressed in the underwear even though she hated the itchy feeling provided by the bra and the tightness of the panties compared to that of boxers. What she wanted to see was how Sasuke was going to react since this little show was just for him. Act cute and innocent. Don't try and push anything or it could get you in trouble. Tenten told her when she picked out the underwear for Naruto. She had even given Naruto tips of how to act, which helped greatly since she wasn't used to doing this while out of the sexy jutsu form. Cute and innocent. Just think of doing the sexy jutsu. Sexy jutsu. I'm doing the sexy jutsu. It's the same as when I did it with Lee. Naruto turned her head towards the Uchiha, looking mournful as she spoke in a sad, yet overly cute voice. I don't look good in these, do I? Examining his face while she waited for a response. There was a dark blush on his face and his eyes, that were recently shut, were staring at her as if she had spoken in another tongue. She couldn't help but think that this was funny. To think that Sasuke could be wavered by such things. Her own face showed a little pink at the thought, but she went on. Come on, Sasuke-kun. She walked towards the Uchiha with a sway in her hips just like Tenten had instructed. Tell me if I look good or not. The male took a step back for every step she made towards him, the two of them now out of the bathroom. He remained silent to further Naruto's bliss. Heh, I've got him. He's completely baffled. I guess I'm not so bad at this after all. Another bit of advice popped up in her head that Tenten had said, don't let on that you know he's flustered. This was too easy. Naruto was doing better with Sasuke compared to the time with Lee. Then again, Naruto wasn't in lingerie when dealing with Lee. What's wrong, Sasuke-kun? Naruto allowed for her eyes to grow misty. Do you not like the way I look? Is that why you're avoiding me? She had walked Sasuke into a wall and tried hard not to lose composure and laugh. What are you doing? The Uchiha's voice struggled not to break. Me. The blonde let her flat chest just barely touch Sasuke and felt him tense up. She smiled. Well, since everyone wants Haim-chan, her smile became menacing when she uttered the word, to be girly then by all means, let Haim-chan be girly. You, started the Uchiha with difficulty as Naruto wrapped her arms behind his back, slowly pressing their bodies closer, just wanted to get back at me, for calling you that stupid name. The female faked the innocence again. Why would I want to get back at you for anything, Sasuke-kun? And watched as Sasuke's face twisted in a mixture of anger and embarrassment. The space between the two of them that was no longer existent allowed for Naruto to feel the heat coming from Sasuke's body, reassuring her that he was suffering because of her little act. Good. He should be suffering after all he's done to me. I'm having a little problem though. You see, she slowly backed up a step and turned around. I can't reach the back of my bra to snap it together. It wasn't a lie since Naruto really did have a problem with the annoying undergarment. She slowly pulled up the strap that lay limp on her arm to give off a feel for the motion. Please do this for me. I can't do it all by myself, and if it doesn't get snapped then, the whole thing might fall off and reveal everything. That would be horrible, spoke the blonde in an innocently unknowing voice. Sasuke understood exactly what was going on. Naruto was getting back at him for calling her Haim-chan. Why didn't she just tell him that she hated the name? He was suffering dearly from it and held onto the last sliver of control he had for her sake. It pained him to do so, realizing that his excitement turned into desire. If she touched him again or vice versa, he would end up doing something he would regret. Go in the bathroom, take it off, and snap it yourself, then put it back on, as well as some clothes. The male struggled with his words, making each individual segment appear to make a sentence alone. He clenched his fists tightly when Naruto didn't make a move from the spot. She obviously didn't like his idea and began stripping herself of her bra right there. I think it'll be fine if I did that right here. And kept her bare back open to Sasuke. His eyes grew lustful at the sight and he felt a throbbing sensation between his legs. It was hard not to give in as he became hotter and hotter with every second that slowly passed. Naruto pulled the bra back on, oblivious to the danger she was about to be in if she didn't quit this act that was slowly killing Sasuke. Naruto glanced back at Sasuke and saw him struggling and mentally cheered herself on. She had been in a fix when she found that she couldn't get the bra snapped, but ended up creating her own idea of seduction from it. Wanting to tease Sasuke just a little more, because it was fun, she turned back around and roughly pressed her chest against his, feeling him tighten up to the touch again. Naruto smiled in knowing that she could make him feel agitated just from her touching him. So, what did you mean by, she's mine? She slowly rested her head against Sasuke's chest and waited for an answer, listening to his heart thump against his chest at a rather fast pace. Naruto blushed at this and quickly continued, not noticing that she suddenly dropped the girly voice when doing so. You weren't being serious, were you? I mean, if you really felt that way, you'd tell me, wouldn't you? The blonde felt her own heart race at this and she held on to Sasuke tightly upon realizing that this was no longer an act, but a real question. Naruto, I can't talk to you when you're doing something like this. This seemed to catch Naruto's attention. Why couldn't Sasuke talk to her right now? It kind of upset her. Was he just trying to run away from this topic like he did everything else? Payback mode again, you heartless jerk. Very slowly and cautiously, Naruto drew her hips up against Sasuke's and stopped. When doing this, she came to feel something against her. Time froze. Naruto felt her body grow ice cold when realizing what she felt against her. Is he horny? This scared the hell out of Naruto. Not only had she flustered him, but she made him horny. Was that a possible thing to do to someone as stoic as Sasuke? Feeling this part of his body against hers caused the familiar heat between her legs to heighten to an aroused state that she didn't want. SSS Sasuke. Stuttered the blonde nervously, and a pair of hands lightly grabbed onto her shoulders and began squeezing them as the male exhaled rather heavily compared to that of normal breathing. Now understanding what Tenten meant by, don't push anything or it could get you in trouble, Naruto frantically pushed the Uchiha's hands off of her and backed up. DDD, don't touch me, she shouted as she attempted to run back into the bathroom. She didn't want her seducing to make him go this far. She had just wanted a little laugh for everything he had done to her. Now all she wanted was to hide in the bathroom and never come out because of her fear towards the male in this state, but Sasuke had some motive now and quickly copied her movements. Just as Naruto reached out for the knob to open the bathroom door, Sasuke grabbed both of her arms from behind and forced her to turn around. She soon found herself pushed against the door, his body now pushed against hers, mirroring the way she had done. He pressed his hips hardly against hers and she struggled not to make a sound both from the pain, she blushed, and pleasure of the touch. She looked up into Sasuke's face, feeling that she should be worried about her well-being now. The male's eyes flashed back at her and he whispered angrily, after all the things you just did, you expect me not to touch you? His voice no longer struggling to hold back the aroused tone he had been hiding from the blonde. What the hell does that mean? She was very freaked out now. Before Naruto was able to stop herself, she kneed him where she knew it would hurt and went on in a rant of new names for the Uchiha: lech, pervert, molester, rapist, and watched as he quickly let go of her and buckled down from the pain of where she kneed him, quietly cursing her as he did. He's going to rape me. What the hell's wrong with him? I didn't think he was this kind of person. Another closet pervert. When Naruto was sure that he wouldn't be getting up anytime soon, she made a run for the front door. She went to yank it open, but found that it wouldn't budge. Puzzled by this, Naruto looked up a tad and saw Sasuke's hand pushed up against the door from behind her. Holy shit, he can recover fast. She spun around to the male. How could she not hear him following behind her? Then again, even in a mission she wasn't this frantic over something, so not being completely alert to everything around her seemed to make sense. What the hell is your problem? The Uchiha looked to still be in pain from how hard Naruto had kneed him, but ignored it and let his eyes travel down Naruto's body. This added to Naruto's fear of the male. "You quit looking my body over, you pervert." She knew that this was a girly thing to say, but she couldn't help it. He was freaking her out. And, well, she was a girl now. It was silent and Onyx's eyes made their way back up to Naruto's face. He had on the, "You really are an idiot" look. I was hoping you would understand what I was hinting at when I did that. The blonde's body tensed. Did he mean that he wanted to have with her? She wasn't one for immediately understanding these kinds of things, but if Sasuke was going to put it that bluntly that even Naruto could understand, then it wasn't so hard. The familiar sensation of being turned on, yet again, resulted in this conclusion of Naruto's. She didn't want Sasuke to know this was how she was suddenly feeling, in fear that he would be more inclined to forcing her on his bed and do as he wished, so she stuttered quickly, no way. I'm not doing that with you. Sasuke's serious expression was shot down to this, obviously seeing he had poorly worded what he meant. What the hell are you talking about? He quickly pointed down at her body. What I meant was that it wouldn't be smart to go outside in your underwear, Dobi. Naruto's entire body had to be red at this. Could someone die of embarrassment? If so, she should already be dead. She hated that she had assumed this, but quickly blamed Sasuke. Well, if you'd just say what you mean instead of looking at my body, then practically telling me to guess what you mean by it, then I wouldn't have to get confused, Tem. She crossed her arms over her barely clothed chest and went on to pout about not being more informed of these kinds of things. Why was it that everyone loved the guessing game anyways? Naruto was never good at it, so why continue to torture her with, Naruto, guess what I mean by doing this? Knowing that she wouldn't get it and probably take it in a bad way. Not that she ever meant to take things in a bad way. The aroused state that the Uchiha was previously suffering had calmed in their argument, as well as the pain from Naruto literally hitting below the belt, and he felt some sense return to him, but was sore that Naruto didn't seem to care much about what had happened. She needed a form of punishment. Naruto. What now? When Naruto turned, Sasuke marched forward towards her. She immediately took to walking backwards away from him, but found that this was a mistake, and what Sasuke wanted, when she fell over the arm of his couch and onto the hard furniture. Before Naruto had a chance to get up, Sasuke quickly straddled her, his hands now gripping her wrists roughly. Sasuke, what are you doing? The blonde sounded alarmed, this being the reaction Sasuke wanted as he brought his face so close to hers that he could kiss her if he wanted, but declined to giving in and doing such a thing right now. He pulled both of Naruto's hands together and held her wrists with one hand, letting the other comb through the short blonde hair and down to her chin, and grasped a hold of it to make sure that she wouldn't turn away from him. Is for wearing nothing but underwear and for kneeing me. Naruto looked to be very pissed by this. She was able to get an arm free and grabbed his shirt threateningly. Don't screw around with me, Sasuke. I'm still a guy, so don't go treating me like a ditzy girl. If you're really my friend, you will understand what I'm saying. Sasuke blinked a couple times and got the hint. He pulled himself off of her and allowed her to get up. He was only treating her this way because he was concerned about her getting hurt when she was around other guys. Other than that, he was treating her all the same. Well, straddling her was over the top, but he wanted her to understand what guys were really like. Naruto wouldn't understand because she was among the few men, well, technically women, in the world that didn't show a major interest in activity. It was best if she learned this way. I get it. You're still Naruto. But you have to understand something too. You can't go around freely flirting with guys like you did today. I don't want any of them to hurt you, Dobi. Can't you see that? I mean, I really. Okay, I get it already. I'll be careful when I'm around guys. I won't flirt with them or seduce or anything, okay? Does that make you happy? If Sasuke had to take a guess, he would say that Naruto was not happy with this, not because she wanted to flirt, but because he was still trying to protect her, therefore, he was treating her differently. As long as she understands. His eyes traveled down her body again. Not purposely eyeing her, he just happened to look her over and decided he would have to get used to her new appearance. He was just curiously getting in a couple glances while she was dressed this way. Naruto didn't notice though and moodily made her way to the Uchiha's bed and crawled in it as if getting ready to go to sleep. Naruto, spoke the raven-haired male after following her to the side of his bed. The blonde shot up and hissed, "Why do you keep bugging me?" Sasuke eyed her body again, but instead of assuming that she'd follow suit, he went on, "Unless you're planning on sleeping in your underwear, I'd suggest you get dressed into your bed clothes." This seemed to agitate Naruto. Grr, leave me alone. Face changed dramatically into a cute, "oh crap," expression. Oh, bed clothes. Right, she got up and slowly made her way to the bathroom, but instead of going in she looked back at Sasuke and warned him, "Go to sleep or all." She trailed off. Apparently she couldn't think of anything to do to him that wouldn't cause a horrible outcome and quickly slammed the door because of it. That was threatening, he thought sarcastically, taking no liberty in moving from his spot to go to sleep. He wasn't too trusting of her anymore and thought that he could handle anything after seeing her in the provocative underwear. After a couple minutes Sasuke grew tired of standing and went to sit on his bed. Why did Naruto have to take so long to get dressed for bed? Was it really that hard to do as a girl? The bathroom door opened not too long after this thought and Naruto slowly exited. Sasuke saw why she wanted for him to be asleep. She was wearing silky pajamas that she obviously got while shopping with the girls. They were the same black color that her underwear was and had little pink and red hearts printed all over the smooth-looking material. The shirt was cut to reveal her cleavage, if she had cleavage, that is, and some of her stomach. Naruto looked to be pulling it down in attempt to cover her stomach, but would spaz when she found that pulling would cause her incredibly small to become visible. On the whole it looked to be something that a female would wear to stimulate excitement in her partner. Sasuke swallowed hard at the thought. He found the clothing to be on Naruto, but Naruto's face said otherwise when she looked down at herself in disgust. Exactly why did she get all of these things if she didn't like them? Weren't people supposed to buy things they like? The Uchiha sighed, feeling defeated already. Naruto didn't need to go out with the girls anymore. They just made Naruto act strangely. It was probably their idea for Naruto to get the underwear and Sai might have told her to seduce him for amusement purposes. That made sense to Sasuke, but why she went through with it left him scratching his head in confusion. Naruto's azure eyes diverted themselves from her outfit and to Sasuke's bed. Upon seeing the male sitting up and being very awake she rapidly pointed a finger at him. "I said you needed to be asleep." The Uchiha shrugged and said calmly, "I wanted to make sure that you didn't have anything else up your sleeves." Disbelief was written all over Naruto's face. "What would make you think I would try anything after you attempted to rape me?" Just the mention of the word rape choked the Uchiha. He wasn't able to respond for a second, but found his voice and growled, "I wasn't going to rape you. I was teaching you a lesson so you'd never try something like that again. You were horny." Naruto practically shouted, no longer able to keep this fact from being said. The conversation no longer had a point to Sasuke now, but his face turned red. He collapsed on his side and pulled the blanket up to his shoulders and faced opposite of Naruto. All he wanted was to go to sleep and forget everything that happened that night, but unfortunately for him, he had a problem to deal with first: Naruto. She was quiet for maybe a minute at most until something hit her. Sasuke. Onyx's eyes snapped their gaze to Naruto in annoyance. Seeing that he wouldn't be able to sleep until Naruto was, he pulled himself up to a sitting position and glowered at the blonde. "What?" Naruto slowly shuffled to his bed. She appeared to be a little hesitant with whatever it was that she was about to bring up, so she was quiet for a moment before going on. "Where do I sleep? This can't be happening." Sasuke looked around. It would be harsh on his part to tell her to sleep on the floor and his couch wasn't that comfortable to sleep on. He eyed his bed. There was no way he'd be able to sleep with her in the same bed as him, but where else could she sleep? "On the bed," he said in the serious tone that almost sounded emotionless to show Naruto that he wasn't thinking of doing anything to her, which he was almost positive that he wouldn't. It was just going to be hard for him to get to sleep. This probably wasn't the best way to put it though. Naruto's eyes grew wide. "No way. I'm not sleeping on the same bed as." "Why not?" interrupted Sasuke, a little annoyed. "If you were a guy you wouldn't have a problem with it, would you?" He felt that maybe it was a mistake to bring this up because Naruto's expression grew solemn and sad, but she hid it quickly with a pout. "You're right. I wouldn't have had a problem at all sleeping with another guy while I was a guy because that kind of thing happens all the time among men." There was something about Naruto being sarcastic that really annoyed Sasuke and he reached out, grabbed one of Naruto's wrists and pulled her to lie in the bed next to him. "Just shut up and go to sleep already." After a few minutes of trying to get to sleep even though Naruto was really tired, she could do anything but sleep. Everything that Sasuke had said dealing with her loss of manhood really bit at her, but she didn't want to say anything about it in fear of emotions getting wrapped up in it. She turned to Sasuke to see if he was asleep, but it was hard to tell since he was facing opposite of her. He seemed far from her reach even though he was lying right there next to her. Why did they have to be so distant with one another? It saddened the blonde even more and she wanted to be closer to the Uchiha, but he didn't show any signs of wanting the same thing. Deciding that she didn't care whether or not he was asleep, Naruto inched over to him and rested her head against his back and lightly clutched his shirt in one hand. When she was little she never had comfort from a parent while asleep, but now that she had time with Sasuke she decided that she wanted to be selfish and embrace someone else while falling asleep. Doing this eased her mind and she was able to relax and quietly whispered a good night to Sasuke before closing her eyes and drifting off to sleep.